city, but I am tired of the same people, of the same things. I want to escape now, to another place now, but with you, 'cause I don't want to be alone. Tell me if you want to follow me now, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy. Tell me if you want to follow me now, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy.
Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The three wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
Before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, you know, these are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower.
Break. Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, you can look and it's supposed to show off.
I love it. 16.5 minutes gone. Senna Lamson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Well, hello everybody, hello indeed, and welcome to Chaz Draycott Media. Welcome to the sim racing magazine Core au Mans here at the wonderful Circuit de 24 Heures du Mans, which of course is all known to us shortly as Le Mans. My name is Chaz Draycott. It's been a while since I've done an iRacing broadcast of sorts due to multiple working weekends away and all sorts, so it's great to be back on your screens yet again, and it's also an absolute pleasure to have alongside me my partner in crime, Ed May, in the commentary box with me. Ed, we've been looking forward to this event for quite a while now since the first plans came together, but we're finally here with a great lineup of drivers and teams.
Yes, thank you very much, Chaz. And it's just moments away, the sim racing magazine Core au Mans, the wonderful race for 2.4 hours as opposed to the full 24 that the drivers will be taking part in, I believe, later this year, because I don't think we've had the race around the French countryside on iRacing yet, have we, Chaz?
I don't think so, and if it has happened, it's gone very much under the radar. But the circuit itself on the map that you see there, definitely not well, doesn't show you how much of a challenge this place is. It's a massive circuit, 13.5 kilometres, of course, in the French countryside, but the track map doesn't like this layout of our graphics, unfortunately. I want to say a big thank you to Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Orris Digital, the two sponsors of this event. We really do appreciate their support, and of course hope that you will check both of them out for whichever services they provide. Orris Digital, part of the digital marketing side from the wonderful Heinz Mayer, who also supports our other events here on Sim Racing Magazine. And Derbyshire Holiday Homes, fantastic place. If you want just a lovely weekend away, get in touch with Drew Fletcher and his guys. Both of the people involved behind those companies are racing tonight as well, so plenty still to race for. But the main thing here tonight, Ed, is the fact that we've got three different classes to look at, and for the first time ever on Chaz Draycott Media, we have the GTPs, the LMDhs, the Hypercars, whatever we want to call them. One of the most dramatic and exciting classes to come to modern racing in years.
Yes, the new iCall Hypercar class coming out in full force for the first time on Sim Racing Magazine. Look at the speed they take through into the Porsche curves. We were talking about how responsive these cars look, and we were highlighting it before the broadcast on this RD SimSport car. It just seems glued to the track. Wonderful little bit of kit as it's coming up towards the Ford chicane now. Coming to the end of yet another qualifying lap. The drivers have had plenty of time to get their laps on the board. A little bit of congestion, a little bit of traffic. You can see the speed differential between the Hypercar class and the old LMP2s. Coming across the line, no improvement there for Niels Teesters for RD SimSport. John Tusting carrying on though for his qualifying laps in this boosted Motorsport Blue LMP2 entry.
Yeah, he's currently in 6th position in class at the moment. Currently, there's only 6 LMP2s in the field, unfortunately, but they're going to have a great battle themselves because they're only separated by 1.3 seconds, so the pace is definitely close there. In terms of the GTEs, we've got a lot more of those in our field. We have 11 of them currently. This is one of our championship sponsors, Drew Fletcher, who is there in the Series 1 Racing 911 RSR. It's great to have the RSR back on our screens as well, Ed. What an amazing racket this thing makes. We've actually got a bunch of really good sounding cars tonight, but I think everybody knows that this is the one that takes the biscuit.
Drew Fletcher actually kicking the rear end out, coming through Arnage there. Is very eager on the throttle. Obviously, these cars really have traction control, but no ABS, so limited assistance for these drivers in the GTE class. You can see just the speed that they take through the Porsche curves is nothing like that of the, I believe it's officially known as the LMDh class. Ooh, an improvement there. LMP2, Sapphire SimSport Money go top of the pile, leapfrogging both RD SimSport 2 and Renvort Remnants. A really good lap in the dying few moments of qualifying.
Yeah, Jacob Money on the money, you could say, for Sapphire SimSport Money. He was supposed to have a teammate for the event as Happy Penguin Racing Team, but last minute that was changed to Sapphire SimSport Money. And some of the drivers out there tonight will be soloing the event. Ben Gregory was one of the first drivers to ask to solo the event for Boosted SimSport in one of the Acura ARX 06s. This fantastic LMDh machine. We've got these and the Cadillacs out there tonight. Taylor Adams in the Cadillac, the brutal sounding V8 machine for Regenta Sim Racing. Well, easily one of the prettiest cars in the field. We also have one of the Porsches as well. The 11 Tenths Racing team holding up the Porsche honour in this class. The only Porsche out there tonight amongst a field of Cadillacs and Acuras.
I have to say, I don't know why we're surprised that Jacob Money is so good behind the wheel of the LMP2, because we've both commentated on him in the booth in LMP2 machinery way back with the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship, if you can cast your mind back that long ago, Chaz. He was a real contender, I believe, in the AM class, where I think it was right down to the wire, but I believe he might have just took it.
Yeah, I think he did in the end, actually, Jacob Money. He was absolutely on it all the way through. I think he was he one of the guys racing for Positively Sim Racing back then?
He was.
I think it was,
yes, indeed.
Yeah, he's certainly got the pedigree, that's for sure. We've got more Porsches in the GTE class. It's mainly Porsches actually in that class, but it's a BMW Fastest, then a Porsche, then a Corvette, and then the Ford GT, the only one in the field being driven by Mike Horder. So certainly well represented. We've also got a newcomer to Sim Racing Magazine this evening as well. Toby Johns on screen for TAJ Racing. Just getting his eye in really with this sort of event, and very new still to iRacing and Sim Racing. Is a good friend of Drew Fletcher, and it's great to have Toby on our grid, and we of course hope that he enjoys the evening. Just going past him there is Christopher Smith in the RD SimSport 2 LMP2 car, flying by down the straight towards Indianapolis. Very scary part of the circuit here, Ed. Even just in practice and qualifying so far, we've seen a bunch of drivers going off through here, haven't we?
We really have. It's just chuck it through. You hope the car sticks. Then the amount of speed you take through the right-hander at every Indianapolis, then need to slow down quickly in a short space of time. So easy to lock up and go straight. Thankfully, the gravel does a better job of slowing you down now than it used to. But you still have very limited control, so it's so easy to end up in that tyre barrier.
Absolutely is. We go on board right now with Christopher Smith, as John Roberts has just crossed the line. I don't believe he's improved. No, he has improved his lap time, but unfortunately doesn't move up a place. He remains in 5th position in the LMDh category. Sorry, in 6th position in the LMDh category. It's a little bit more spread out there as RD SimSport lead that. RD SimSport are either 1st or 2nd in each class at the moment. They've brought a great roster of drivers to the event yet again, and we thank them for their support. Rob Sutherland and his boys always do a great job at supporting our series and championships, and they're always great sports about it all as well. And it's lovely to have them back with us. Christopher Smith is going for a better lap here, but as you see by the colours at the bottom of your screen, they're all white sectors, so he hasn't improved yet, and he's only got 1 minute and 20 seconds left. That means that the next cars to complete their laps will be starting their final laps indeed, because it's over 3 minutes for everybody around here. Toby Johns, crawling around the final corner, decides to get a run, give it another crack once more. And Drew Fletcher is next through the Porsche curves. Fantastic part of the circuit, though. I think we're going to see a bit of drama around there maybe tonight, though, Ed, because it's easy to just get a little bit too confident in the car and either understeer wide like that, or just overdo it and maybe put too much lock on and lose the rear end. It's very easy to do both, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's an area of the track where you know you can make up a lot of time because the average speed is so low. If you can carry an extra few kilometers an hour compared to your rivals, then that's going to be a huge amount of time you're able to make up right at the end of a lap. And honestly, I've had so many good laps around here where I've been up my delta by a few tenths, and then coming towards those final couple of corners, one little mistake, all that time gets lost, and it's just so gutting, so soul-destroying, because it's so pivotal for the lap time, and it's right at the end.
Drew Fletcher right at the end of the braking zone there into the first chicane has unfortunately mucked it up, and that's going to have ruined his final chance at a lap. Lee Berridge isn't having a great time in practice at the moment, unfortunately. I've seen and raced with Lee for a long time, since I first joined iRacing back in 2014, but Lee's struggling to get a clean lap in at the moment. He's half a minute off the cars at the top of the LMDh category, but he's pushing on here for an improvement. Russell Clark is going to be the next one across the line for Rusty's Roasts Racing. They're in the slightly modified colours of the Porsche factory colour scheme in the 991 RSR. They've got the Ferrari behind them, actually, of Kim Such for Orris Racing Green. They're all getting flashed by Lee Berridge, who wants to come through. Tries it on the right-hand side. My goodness me, I don't know how he made that work. I think he's still got a valid lap out of it. None of them wanted to give it up. And are we going to finally see...
got a 0x contact. I don't know if he's going to have it count, and especially not if he rides the curb like that. Deary me, Lee Berridge really struggling here. Again, coming over the line, it's not going to be enough. to go up the order. Oh, he does go up into 7th place. It's only just getting the time on the board. Thankfully, he won't be stuck in the midst of the LMP2s and GTEs, because otherwise that'd be an absolute nightmare.
Absolutely would. There has been a sort of designated start zone for this evening as well. The classes have been asked to spread out anywhere up to 10 seconds between them, and then head over to the 4 chicanes, of course, make their way through as closely as possible together, then form up, and the leader will go at the start-finish line of the lap. Christopher Smith coming through the horrible corner that is Arnage. I hate that corner more than any corner in the world. It just feels like there's a magnet on the outside of the corner that just wants to drag you towards that fence. I don't know what it is, because it's not particularly an uphill or downhill corner. It's just a really bumpy braking zone and a horrible apex. And no matter what you do through there, the car just doesn't feel like it wants to behave. Christopher Smith is one of the last cars on the circuit here, and we get the joy of watching him go through the Porsche curves again in this Dallara P217. Phenomenal car to drive, this thing, isn't it, Ed? It's a right laugh.
It really is. I was quite resistant to it at first because I was such a huge fan of the HPD, the old LMP2 car. I had such great success with it. But I'll tell you what, my time on the service, the time racing it has lured me over and won me over. It's been a really nice car to drive, and I've had some good memories in this little bit of kit around Le Mans. And just going back to what you said earlier about Arnage, I completely agree. It's so difficult because there's nowhere to look for a braking marker either.
No.
It's bumpy, but there's not really a whole lot of landmark either on either side of the track for you to pick your marker and get it nailed. Every single time it feels just like having to brake on muscle memory. I thought I broke here last time. We'll see how it goes. And sometimes it's all right, and other times you lock up and you face first into the tyres.
Yeah, and that's the moment where you realise that, oh no, you never broke that late there anyway. Here comes Toby Johns around the final corner, trying to improve on that final lap time. A 3:46, and it's I don't think an improvement there by Toby Johns. Just misses out, unfortunately. It wasn't a valid lap time, it seems, but that has put pay to qualifying, and it's Niles Teasters that is fastest in the Cadillac for RD Simsport in the LMDh category. Jacob Money fastest for Sapphire Simsport Money in the LMP2s. And then in the GTEs, it's Niles Core of Chicane Online Racing ahead of Peter Sikdar for RD Simsport 3. And I tell you what, actually, Ed, Niles Core, phenomenal throughout the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 season. And I tell you what, I'm not surprised to see him making another large BMW work to his credit. It's a great bit of kit.
Yeah, Niles Core, if you aren't familiar with the SRM GT4 Challenge, was a real emerging talent from last season. Was he a newcomer, a rookie, but has really came in leaps and bounds, especially in the last few stages of the previous season. I think he's just missed out on the race victory, but he's still an absolute joy to watch.
Yeah, he really is. And a reminder here that this is a 2.4 hour event, so it's going to be a 2 hour 25-minute race. The cars in all classes are limited to 75% of their usual fuel allowance, so we'll see quite a lot of pit stops, especially from the LMP2s, and it should just provide a few more pit stops than normal. I think with the 2.5 hour-ish race, you'd usually see only 2 pit stops, but we may get 3, even a 4th out of some cars here in these categories, so it's going to be a very, very exciting race. We're just waiting for the session to tick over now. It's going to be a 10-minute warm-up session because qualifying's been going on for an hour before this even started tonight, this broadcast, so the drivers do get a little 10-minute period to just calm down for a little bit, and then of course some of them will still use it to get their second driver a little bit more in tune with the conditions. Speaking of the conditions though, Ed, it's a little bit interesting tonight because it's a double sort of time progression, so time in the sim in terms of the sun and everything around it, it tends to go at double the speed, so we're going to get interesting lighting and conditions which progress very quickly for us this evening.
Yeah, which means the drivers will have to be right on top of it if the track begins to cool down, which it will do. They'll need to be right out there at the best moments, maybe timing their pit stops as well to get the most out of their tyre sets when it's nice and cool come the end of the session. Here we go, all the cars making their way out onto the track. Just for, like you say, those last few bits of warm-up that the drivers have to properly get acquainted with the track. Obviously, they will have driven countless laps in the run-up to the event tonight, but still good to really acclimatise to the actual conditions the cars will be racing on when we go to, well, 9 minutes before the green flag.
It's lovely to see this machine as well, the In-Cam Racing LMP2 of Charlie Stout, and I believe is sharing that car actually with his dad Paul Stout as well, and they've done it in this gorgeous sort of unpolished carbon fibre finish. It looks very, very tasty indeed, and it's nice to see Charlie and Paul back out again supporting our series and our events. But yeah, everybody, like you say, Ed, just getting those last moments out there. Sometimes some of the teams here that have 2 drivers will just get their second driver out on the circuit, the driver that isn't starting the race basically, to go and complete a lap or 2 and just get used to the conditions. But like I've said, they will progress very quickly. This is one of the prettiest cars in the field, Tim Perry's Altitude Esports Corvette C8R GTE, the only Corvette in the field. We also have only one Ford in the field, which is Mike Horder in the Boosted Motorsport Pink machine, and one Ferrari, Ryan Penny sharing with Kim Such for Orris Racing Green. So would you be with any of those sort of GTE cars in this case, Ed? Would you choose the car that isn't the majority, like the Porsche?
I mean, I'm not sure if I'd choose the Porsche for the GTE field, just because I didn't really get along with it. I did enjoy the Ferrari quite a lot when I was racing, back in a time where I bothered to do GTEs, and I was always lured in and tempted by the Ford and the Corvette, but never really stuck with it for too long. Although if I was racing here this evening, I would be in a BMW, but not the M8. I would be in the LMDh, because that car is something else. I love it.
Yeah, it's interesting not to see any of the BMWs this evening. Another car that we don't seem to have on track for tonight was, I can't remember. There was no BMW LMDh, which is a massive shame. But there was also, what's the other GTE that we don't have out there? We've got the Ford, the Ferrari, the Porsche, the BMW, and the Corvette. So we've got all the GTEs. But there was supposed to be a 10th car. Is there another LMDh that no one's chosen?
I don't think so. I think there's only 4 in the service, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, we've got 9 cars. Sorry,
Yeah.
for some reason I thought there was 8 cars. 8 different types out there, but no, there isn't. Apologies, everyone, I'm being an idiot. We've got the Renvort Remnants on circuit as well. I want to give a great shout out to these guys. This is Ben Chalcraft and Mike Murphy. I met these guys over on Circuit Superstars, the wonderful top-down racing game, and they, with their teammate Nico Minardi from Minardi Simsport, all fell in love with the idea of Formula One, and we all connected very, very well. And these guys have continued to support a lot of events and championships that I do, whether that's with Sim Racing Magazine or Sim Racing Magazine events as well. They are always there and always showing support. It's great to see them out in such a hardcore event like this as well, because this isn't for the faint of heart, is it, Le Mans? Especially when it's multi-class as well, Ed. This isn't just as simple as jumping into a championship that's like a one-make series, is it? There's a lot more going on here.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be over twice as long from the races they're used to in the SRM GT4 challenge. Those go on for an hour. This is going to be 2.4, so they will need to adapt to the sort of difference of what's required of them here tonight. There is a certain approach and tactic to endurance racing that some drivers have or don't, and it's all really about traffic management. I think that's going to be the key across the classes. No, we've singled out a few teams before we went live that we predict to do very well. I know one name that was floated around in the LMDh class was Regenta Sim Racing. Having a look at this wonderful livery, although maybe they won't be favourites if they do too many more corners like that. Struggling a little bit through the Dunlop chicane, but it's so easy to do because you carry a lot of speed, a deceptively large amount coming up to those first couple of corners, and you need to be settled early, even after that little right-hand kink.
Another thing to note as well for this evening is that there is an incident limit tonight, and there is also a limit in terms of the fast repairs that the drivers and teams can take. There are 2 fast repairs available, and most teams won't be making many more than 2 pit stops anyway. So if they do get damage and get what's known as a meatball flag, which is a black and orange flag that tells them they have to come in and get the damage repaired, then they get 2 chances to do so. And even if they just get knocked a little bit and of course lose straight line speed, then they have multiple opportunities to come and fix that. In terms of the incident limit, there is a 40 incident point limit tonight, which is, I think, more than generous. but after 20 incident points you will receive a drive-through penalty and a telling off. So there's certainly a lot to think about, but I don't think that anyone's going to have much trouble with that really, because it's kind of difficult to get an incident point around them all. There's not many massive track limits opportunities, and with so few laps completed because of the length of this place, I don't think really we're going to see anybody trip over that without any sort of contact coming into the picture anyway.
I wouldn't have thought so either. I think the drivers that we have here are relatively cool and level-headed when it comes to racing, so I shouldn't imagine during an endurance race that they will lose that sort of chilled attitude. Obviously, it's difficult to predict what might happen in the heat of the moment when we get some traffic out in the mix, when they're battling for positions. Just maybe a lapse of concentration, that can sometimes be enough to really ruin a race. It's all about being clear though with what you're doing, and that was very clear from Nils Court. On the inside, you go all the way around the outside down this back straight towards Indianapolis. This is going to be tricky. This is going to be exactly what the LMDhs don't want to have, is catch the slower class cars through some very fast corners, but it won't be too bad if they make a meal of it themselves, as Stuart Clark's just done, exiting stage right.
Yeah, just lost it a little bit through Indianapolis and then went over to the right-hand side. We look here at Lee Berridge in the Boosted Motorsport Acura, one of, I believe, 3 Acuras in the field. We've got himself, John Roberts, who's handily in the Boosted Motorsport green car, which is painted in blue camouflage, and then Ben Gregory in a very similar liveried machine to his teammate Lee Berridge, just getting a bit of practice with his pit entry there, I believe. Now we also have Mark Baxter-Jones and Johnny Elia in the gorgeous Porsche 963 for 11/10 Racing. This car is just so beautiful. It really
Absolutely.
is a gorgeous machine.
I have to say, it's great to see MBJ himself, Mark Baxter-Jones, back with us for SRM as he clarts the wall. He's happy to see us too, but we missed him last season, don't we, Chaz? So it's great to have him back out there racing in the SRM events, and hopefully we'll be seeing him in a little bit more in the future.
Yeah, hopefully so. We do have a trophy cabinet in the Sim Racing Magazine Discord, which actually had to get split up into multiple images. But Mark Baxter-Jones very successful in the Sim Racing Magazine roster.
I believe he won. Did he win the first ever Sim Racing Magazine event?
He won the first 2. He won P1 at Spa-Francorchamps special event. Fastest lap there as well. Fastest lap at Alton Park in special event 2. Safest driver at special event 2 at Alton Park, and won that. He won the very first race of the season ever in the GT4 Challenge, Season 1, Round 1. Then he was 3rd in Season 1, Round 2, 2nd in Season 1, Round 4, and then 3rd again in Round 7 of the championship back then. But unfortunately from then, wasn't able to compete for the rest of the time that the championship ran. We do need to update the trophy cabinet because there's a lot of very deserving drivers in there that have taken many, many race wins, and I know it's out of date because it only says Lewis Ward has had 1 P1 finish in Season 1 of the championship, which was definitely a flash in the pan. Because, well, compared to his other achievements, I should say. Not that you ever fizzled out. He won 2 championships out of that.
Yeah, exactly. And he'll hopefully be back in what's going to be coming soon, the Sim Racing Magazine Winter Series.
Yes.
To, maybe it's not what we'd call an official full-blown series. He was not necessarily defending his crown, but still it would be good to see him out there battling away and continuing the fight with so many drivers that we saw him battle against, especially the man who's currently out on track in the BMW, the M8. Actually, no, he's not out on track at the moment, but Niels Kaur. It'd be so great to see him and Lewis Ward battling it out yet again.
Absolutely would be, yes. So if anyone is interested, we are, as of next week, starting the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Winter Tour, the Tour of Asia, which is a 6-round championship, or a 6-race meeting championship, where we will head to Australia and 3 races in Japan as well, where we're going to be doing a mix of the usual 1-hour endurance style races of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, as well as sprint race evenings as well, which could certainly spice things up. So it's time then for the Sim Racing Magazine Core Oman, which is going to be 2.4 hours here at Le Mans. Niles Teasters is on pole position for RD Sim Sport. Then it's Boosted Only John Barnes alongside him. Matt Slight and Mark Baxter-Jones make up row 2 for Regenta Sim Racing and 11/10 Racing Team. Then it's Ben Gregory and John Roberts for Boosted Sim Sport and Boosted Motorsport Green. Lee Berridge completes the LMDh class in 7th position. Jacob Money takes pole position in LMP2 for Sapphire Simsport Money, ahead of Christopher Smith. Good to see him back for RD Simsport 2. And then the Renvort Remnants, Ben Chalcraft and his teammate Mike Murphy will line up in 3rd. Then it's Paul Stout for Incam Racing, alongside Andy Hopley. Great to have Andy back on our screens for Waterside Gym Esports. Then John Tusting completes the very close LMP2 class in Boosted Motorsport Blue. Then we move on to the GTEs. It's Niles Core for Chicane Online Racing on pole position, ahead of Rob Jackson and Tim Perry. Then Mike Horder and Rob Sutherland for Boosted Motorsport Pink and RD Simsport 4. Then it's Series 1 Racing and Orris Racing Yellow completing the top 20 cars. Then it's Russell Clark for Rusty's Roast Racing, ahead of Fausto Pinto for Scalant Pro Driving, Kim Such for Orris Racing Green, and Toby Johns for TAJ Racing will complete our field. So Ed, the cars finally making their way towards the start-finish line. They're going to go around the Porsche curves and then, of course, to the Ford chicanes. There's a little bit of movement from the LMP2s right now, as all of the GTEs will start to crawl away very shortly. Seems like Jacob Money has not taken the start in the LMP2s, very strangely. The pole sitter, not there.
Deary me, what's going on here? Has he maybe had a bit of a comfort break during the warm-up and not got back in time?
Not a clue.
This is not going to plan at all for the pole sitter. It might certainly spice up the action. Qualifying isn't the be-all and end-all in a 2.4 hour endurance race, but still it'll certainly help you get put into a nice position and get settled down nice and early, not having to charge up through the slower classes any earlier than you really need to. Here we go now, up in front. Archie Coveney for RD Simsport will lead the way. John Barnes for the Boosted Only John machine right up alongside him. Two Cadillacs on the front row. And then a Porsche, then a Cadillac, and then the Acuras all the way at the back. The squadron of Boosted Simsport at the tail end of the LMDh field. We'll soon be seeing get underway. Good spacing though between the classes, making sure there isn't going to be any sort of concertina effect that can cause incidents and accidents. It's nicely managed by everybody.
Yeah, they've done a great job. They will go side by side through the Ford chicanes, and then out of the final couple of corners they have the chance to go as they get to the line. They need to form up here and make sure it's all fair in love and war. But as we come up to the line, the Sim Racing Magazine events Core Oman gets underway here at Circuit de La Sarthe, and it is Archie Coveney for RD Simsport that leads them away, and the Hypercars will now disappear over the horizon and up towards the first chicane. Next up, it's going to be the LMP2s. Christopher Smith is going to lead them for RD Simsport 2 after the dramatic non-appearance of Jacob Money at the start of the race. There's been drama in the LMDhs, as now they get underway in the LMP2s. Just the 5 of them on this occasion, but still there's going to be great battling, and Renvort Remnants have gone straight into the lead. Ben Chalcraft around the outside. It seemed like there wasn't really much of a decision there by Christopher Smith, and he's lost out. There's a little bit of argy-bargy going on there. Here come the GTEs then. Niles Core has been told to hold them to the line as close as he can, and he's doing a great job of that, and away he goes in the M8, and the GTEs get underway at the back end of the field. They're 3 wide already.
It's not going well. They're already 3 wide. This is going to be absolutely terrifying as the Porsche stuck there with the Ford on the inside. And there's contact. The Porsche spins around, locking onto the brakes, doing everything right,
avoidance.
Lifting off, going around. That was really well done, actually, because he locked the brakes, and then when he saw there was a gap, just like to bleed off the brakes a bit to let the car roll forwards. That was really well done.
Yeah, that was fantastic avoidance there by Mike Horder. There's 3 of the prototypes at the front of the LMDh class that have gone. Jacob Money says his iRacing crashed. Unbelievable. So we've got the 3 Cadillacs, then the 3 Acuras, and then the Porsche at the back. I want to see what happened to the Porsche, because Mark Baxter-Jones went off the road. There was a tiny touch in the chicane And that was all she wrote for them. Let's have a look, though, at what happened to Paul Stout and Christopher Smith, because these guys came to a head as well. Oh, Christopher Smith just drills him in the right rear, and then, well, that's settled the LMP2 fight very quickly in this race. And now the GTEs are all fighting as well. What's happened there? Stuart Clark has gone straight on, and he's smacked into, is that Heinz Mayer in the BMW? How'd you have thought this was
just absolutely clarted Meyer there.
You'd think it was a one-lap race, but Niles Corr still leads in the M8 at the front of this field, and then it's Tim Perry in second place. I don't think Tim did anything wrong at the start. I think, unluckily, the Porsche down the inside of him just understeered wide, trying to give the room, but it's a long, long race. There's still plenty left to do. Dearie me, it was Peter Sickdal, wasn't it? It was involved in that first lap incident, first corner incident, I should say. He now gets past Kim Such. But at the front of the field, Archie Coveney for RD Simsport leads, boosted only John Barnes, and then Taylor Adams for Regenta. It's going to be great to see what John Barnes can do in this race, because he is single-handedly driving this race, isn't he, Ed?
It is. It's going to be interesting. Just look at the speed they take through. They're fully laden with fuel as well, yet they still respond instantly. The cars just turn in and go for it. Here we go then. Mike Baxter-Jones chasing down. Look at the closing speed. He's got this car nailed down. Maybe a slightly higher downforce than the Acura up ahead. Mark's really just trying to deftly balance the car and make some quick progress up through the field.
Oh, that's brave. That is very brave there by Mark Baxter-Jones, trying his very best to go down the inside of Lee Berridge of Boosted Motorsport. Through he goes into the Ford chicane. Oh, Lee was a little bit late on the brakes there, I think, but manages to collect it together. Ben Chalcraft leads in the Renvort Remnants machine in LMP2 ahead of Andy Hopley, then John Tusting, and then Christopher Smith. They're around here somewhere. Christopher Smith and Paul Stout actually quite close together after their little excursion off earlier on. That class unfortunately broken up quite a bit by that first corner incident, but the race well and truly underway now in all three classes. Plenty to look at as Stephen Kershaw and Mike Horder fight over third position in the GTEs at this moment in time. It's great to see the only Ford in the field going quite well. Mike Horder absolutely in love with this machine, although he got a little bit hard done by last night because unfortunately the lovely Drew Fletcher set up a session, but the wrong Ford GT was added in, and it was the old GT2 car from many a year ago, and Mike Horder could not join in, unfortunately. But it's a mistake that anyone would easily have made, because I just see Ford GT and try adding it in. And as you see, Mike Horder all over the back of the Porsche, trying to get the better of him at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like Mike didn't really need the practice because he's right at home at the moment. Tucked up in behind as he comes through the, Ford chicane. Now it's just really nailed the exit. Had to back off a little bit to not
was
run
Tim
into
Perry
the
had a
rear
slowdown?
end. Might have done,
Yeah.
Ooh, nearly coming across the nose there, though, of the Ford was Stephen Kershaw trying to get some slipstream and take evasive action. Mike Horder all the way around the outside. It's going to be a brave move if he's to pull it off, and he thinks better of it, realises there's plenty more time to go in this race. But again, really powering out on corner exit, closing down. Now we know that the Porsche is very good on the brakes. It's the same case for the GT4 machinery, but at the moment Stephen Kershaw's really struggling. He's feeling the pressure from Mike Horder.
And just behind him as well, Rob Sutherland for RD Simsport 4 is there. His teammate that will be racing a little bit later on, James Holman, has just tagged into the chat as well, saying he's going to be tagging in for the boss. Great to see you, James. Hope you're doing well. A lovely fight in the GTEs at the moment, though. We've had a good scrap in the hypercars at the front, the LMDhs as well. There's been a change between Ben Gregory and John Roberts. Mark Baxter-Jones has also got past John Roberts, but now Mike Horder is going for second place. Can any of them catch up with Niles Corr in that BMW? Because he is flying away at the front of the field, 6 seconds clear at this moment in time. More changes further up as John Roberts has dropped down behind Lee Berridge, and Ben Gregory and Mark Baxter-Jones are having a ding-dong. Mark Baxter-Jones down the inside, leaving each other just enough room. Great battling indeed between these hypercars. And Ben just says, no thank you, I'm going to try and hang it around a wider line here. Oh, into the back of him goes Mark Baxter-Jones. This is a fight for 4th position in class at the moment. Great entertainment in just the opening 2 laps.
Mark's had some really good couple of laps. He's just found a little nose up the inside. That will give him the outside. But if he can really carry the momentum through and keep his nose there, which he can't do, that could have been a really lovely move. Mark Baxter-Jones, he's trying everything. He's desperate to get through after the disappointing start to the race. So I think it was these two that came to blows, was it not, Chaz, in the opening corner?
It was.
Do we have a chance to have a look at the replay again, just
Yes.
before we see the move get made, potentially from Mark Baxter-Jones? We'll see here. For me, I think they both really could have left a bit more space throughout that, but Mark just came across the nose a bit too much.
Yeah, just a little bit. I think he expected there to be no overlap by the time they got to the apex, but yeah, unfortunately it went one way then the other. And now look at this. This is in the GTE battle. This is Mike Horder second, Stephen Kershaw third, then Rob Sutherland, and then behind that Tim Perry as well. The 4 teams: Boosted Motorsport, Pink Series 1 Racing, RD Simsport 4, and Altitude Esports. Oh, well, my voice is going to reach high altitude if they carry on like this, but great battling between them all in these opening first few laps. They are not leaving anything on the table at all.
I think there's going to be one more to join the fray as Peter Sikdar is closing in. Yeah, RD Simsport car, which qualified very well, dropped back on course even before they got to the first corner, really. Now making some quick progress to get back into that fight, which is, for all intents and purposes, second place. Jacob Money back out onto the circuit. He's a couple of laps down on the LMP2 class leader, so he's going to really struggle, I think, to get much out of the race. But still, good to see him out there on track.
Yeah, absolutely. Great sportsmanship as well, because he knows that he's going to be a while down, but he's still cracking on with it. This is this fantastic fight between Ben Gregory, and he's even typing in the chat, is Jacob Money, to say that he's back. We know, Jacob, we've got you, sunshine, don't you worry. We see you there as, oh my goodness me, Mark Baxter-Jones across the front of Ben Gregory. Tries to put in a demanding and very commanding move. Doesn't work out for him, because I think he's going to get a slowdown for that. I'm sorry, the graphics seem to have mucked up on the left-hand side there, and we seem to have a bunch of the LMDhs that have listed strangely underneath. So, not quite sure what's happened there, but that is Andy Marston, I believe, that is showing underneath. But first place is not showing, and that is this car, which is Archie Coveney in the RD Simsport car. He's opened up a gap now of 4.3 seconds over the boosted-only John machine of John Barnes. Then Taylor Adams next up for Regentis
Oh, there was a
Racing.
lock-up there for John Barnes. He made a mistake. He's gone into the gravel. Just as we looked away, I saw a little lock-up of the front wheels. So John Barnes chasing down Archie Coveney. Makes a mistake of his own, and now that brings Regentis Sim Racing slightly closer into the fight for third place. Ben Gregory just getting past Jacob Money. Backmarker LMP2 car. Lost him a bit of ground and a bit of time to Mike Baxter-Jones, who's certainly got the fire lit beneath him now and really going for things. That little Porsche is going to be one of the cars to watch over the next sort of 30 minutes before the next pit stop.
Not quite sure what's happening with the graphics there. I'm very sorry, everybody, but it seems to be mucked up slightly. We'll give it a bit of an overlay reload, see whether that'll fix it. But Andy Marston is determined to show over the top of the LMP2 class, it seems. So sorry about that. Paul Stout at the back of said LMP2 class at the moment, hoping to catch back up. He's currently in 5th position. This is the battle. Andrew Hopley for Waterside Gym Esports. Oh, hello. He has a bit of a wiggle there. He's sharing the car with his father for this evening. John Tusting hoping to be the higher placed of the blue machines on the road. But look at Ben Chalcraft go at the moment. He is absolutely flying for Renvolt Remnants. They have an 8-second lead over the cars behind them, which is lovely to see. Still, this battle in GTEs goes on. Tim Perry is now in 3rd place ahead of Peter Sikdar for RD Simsport 3. And then Rob Sutherland in RD Simsport 4. Mike Horder has started to break away from them a little bit. We'll have to see how long this lasts, because, of course, we need to think about slipstreaming and all sorts, and fuel saving. There's so many more elements of this race that could definitely come into play, isn't there, Ed?
Definitely, and I have to say, Tim Perry's been looking very quick. Maybe not at this early stage, has been involved in too many battles, but now that he's got clear air, I imagine that he's probably going to close up to Mike Horder, and we'll start to see this battle emerge, not just for 3rd place, but 2nd place as well. We'll just have to sit tight and buy this time, as will Rob Sutherland. LMP2 as well, like you say, very close between Andrew Hopley and John Tusting. Great to see my mate Andy back out there again. Obviously a former teammate of mine back in season 1 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, where we partnered up together after the first round under his H-Motorsport banner, because we were basically 2 of the only drivers taking part in the McLaren car that we see plenty more of nowadays. But back then it was a Porsche-dominated championship, and it was just myself and Andy running at the upper end of the field in the McLarens until obviously then the Aston came out. We switched over to there, and the rest was history.
Absolutely. And some fantastic campaigns followed. Yeah, I'm really not sure what's happened with the graphics on that. I'm really sorry, everyone, but something's very clear. Oh, there we go. Maybe that might be something to do with it. I fixed it by accident. Oh well. So we look here at Mark Baxter-Jones for the 11 Tenths Racing team. Currently doing a wonderful job. But now, all over the back of Ben Gregory once again in the Acura. Goodness me, these boys are not scared. Very, very feisty drivers, both of them. And at the moment, they're giving me a heart attack because this is so close all the time. Fighting over 4th position. Ben Gregory racing this race on his own, so no teammates to worry about. Mark Baxter-Jones racing this one, sharing with the fantastic Johnny Elia. 11 Tenths Racing have actually been racing in the real world as well, in the Enduro KA series here in the UK. We've had a couple of offs for cars. We saw John Barnes have a moment, but this is Stephen Kershaw having a moment at the end of the previous lap. Just locks it up in the... Oh, dearie me. Locks it up in the Ford chicanes, and I tell you what, that might have done quite a lot of damage to the car, you know there, Ed, because in a straight line, that's going to feel like backside now.
Yeah, the complete underside of the car, the floor has been just shattered over the anti-cut there, final corner. That's not going to feel great whatsoever, and if you can make the pit stop early, I recommend you'll do it now. I mean, the drivers, I've tried to work it out. I think the GTEs normally run about an hour on the fuel, obviously with the 75% limit. That'll bring it probably to around about 45 minutes. So then we'll expect them to pit in 45 minutes, then with about an hour and 30 to go, which will then take them to, 2 hours and 15, so about 10 minutes shy of the race distance.
Oh, lovely move.
If
that,
the drivers can... That was really actually. Sorry, I was just strategizing away. But if they can save the fuel, save about 5 minutes in each stint, they could make it on just 2 stops. Imagine most will do 3, but those who are able to save could be in a very good position.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to be very confident in the strategy, though, to make it work. As now, look, there is one of the Orris Racing machines. That's Heinz Mayer in the Orris Racing yellow BMW. As we look back from Mark Baxter-Jones at Ben Gregory, the slipstream not really massive in these cars, is it? You would have thought that Ben Gregory would go soaring past with the way that these cars are so aerodynamically efficient. It's a gorgeous shot of the Acura, but he does not go searing past as I imagined, and now sits with Mark Baxter-Jones. But it's a good opportunity to save fuel if you're Ben, isn't it? You're not really going to know at this point what everybody's going to be doing fuel-wise, but I suppose it's a good chance to at least try it out and test it a bit.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's difficult to predict what the drivers are doing. You'd expect Ben Gregory to be right up the rear end of Mark Baxter-Jones coming into these braking zones, but maybe he is just saving a little bit of fuel. He gets a little close to the backside there, doesn't he? Taking a very different line. See, Ben takes the sort of line that I take into the second Mulsanne, where you turn in a bit earlier, you ride the curb a little bit more, whereas some other drivers like to turn a bit later and sort of, I don't know, try and sweep around it a bit more and go for a later apex.
Yeah.
I'm not so keen. I like carrying, especially in these high downforce cars, I like having that earlier turn and just sort of taking a nice shallower line through the corner rather than opening up the corner and going for those later apexes. I just find it helps me keep the average speed up, lose a bit of pace on the exit, but the amount you gain through the corners sort of nullifies by the time you get down to Mulsanne.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a case of hooking the car up on that initial curve, get the car turned in, then you can deal with how it's behaving a little bit later. You know, you can sort of worry about the consequences. Just a quick shout out again to our wonderful sponsors, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Orris Digital, who have sponsored this event. You'll see their logos all over the stream, and of course in the description on YouTube and on Facebook. You'll also see their logos on the windscreen banners of the cars. It's not as obvious in the prototypes in the LMP2s, but or even on the BMWs, because iRacing's contract with them means that it's always a BMW logo instead. But you'll see them on the windscreen banners of the other GTE cars, and you'll also see the Sim Racing Magazine events logo and my logo on the number boards of the machines as well, if we get a close enough view of them anyway. This is Mike Horder, second place in the GTEs at the moment, floating the car through the right-hander onto the Mulsanne straight. And this Ford, well, it's buzzing away at the moment. It's like a big angry wasp, isn't it, the Ford GTE? I raced it in the World GT Championship a long time ago and really enjoyed it. Apparently it's a bit of a pig to drive now, though, Ed. Do you have any experience in the car?
When I was first on iRacing, the first GT I ever bought was the Ford GT, and to be fair, I was absolute pants in it, but that might be more of a statement on my abilities rather than the car. I was also pants in the Ferrari for a good period of time after I joined Fury Sim Sport, and then I had some wonderful tutelage around this very circuit, actually, by the one and only Martin Plowman.
Wow.
Who helped me out a great deal. A teammate of mine when I was at Fury Sim Sport, and he's since carried on with his real life exploits and not really dipping into the Sims too much. But it was a wonderful experience just because he was able to help you so much, mainly on the braking and the way that you take the car through. The God was, oh dear, there's something broken on Mark Baxter Jones, or is he just thrown off the road maybe by a back marker there? Because we saw a Porsche in the mix. Ben Gregory, is he going to take advantage? Oh my word, this is brilliant. And that throws Mark Baxter Jones for a bit of a loop. That's the traffic. That's the thing that certain drivers have, is the ability to navigate traffic. Mark Baxter Jones just struggled a little bit. Ben Gregory, he saw what to do, just carved his way past.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was certainly a fantastic effort by Mark Baxter Jones to not hit anything. I don't know how there was not contact there, but they all did a decent job of not making contact at all. Mark Baxter Jones just tried it. You know, he saw that he was potentially able to cut across to the right, but then Ben Gregory took the advantage, did a wonderful, wonderful job. Now, this is the battle for second place overall in the race. Yeah, sure, there's still 2 hours and 6 minutes left to go, but it's already hotting up in the LMDh category for second position. John Barnes single-handedly driving this race. Taylor Adams behind, sharing that car over the course of this event. Taylor is going to be sharing with his teammate Matt Slight in this Cadillac V LMDh. Great sounding and great looking racing car. And he's doing a great job at the moment at setting this up for his teammate, but this battle dropping away from the race leader Archie Coveney for RD Simsport. Archie's been a star in our special events before. I remember him performing brilliantly at the Daytona Classic way back when, at the start of this year actually that was. And Archie, I believe he raced it with his brother, was it Oscar Coveney? I think it was. They raced together previously. By the way, Minardi Simsport in the YouTube chat, great to see you, mate. He's shouting for the Renvort Remnants. Nico running the Minardi Simsport team with Ben Chalcraft and Mike Murphy, and the guys leading the LMP2 class at the moment by 11 seconds. The battle for second place between Hopley and Tusting, clearly dropping them some time, as Mark Baxter Jones has got past Ben Gregory. Ben Gregory now off the road and rejoining again behind his teammate Lee Berridge. So now it's Ben Gregory's turn for a mistake. So it's all swapping around here. Oh, how many times have we seen that, Ed?
It's exactly what you said. It's that horrible, horrible curb on the way into Arnage. It's exactly what you described. It's horrendous to get right because it's bumpy and it's so tricky to turn in right in the car. What we saw there, if we have another look at the replay and see if we can maybe slow it down, goes over the curb and then the wheels they fall off the curb. They go over the left hand side edge. You just see it there. The rear tyre dips down, grips up, sends him for a spin.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? It's like grinding along a rail on a skateboard. It's just, there's no traction at all coming from the wheels that are underneath you. You just got to be along for the ride and it's going to spin. This is a fantastic fight here. Probably one of the best looking and best sounding fights I've ever seen on iRacing between these two Cadillacs. Look at the limits they are pushing. Taylor Adams for Argenta Sim Racing putting John Barnes under all sorts of pressure. But because of how the slipstreaming, doesn't work in these cars, it's just an intriguing fight because he's not really gaining a massive amount down the straight. Sure, he's staying with him, but it's never really enough to completely overtake him, is it? Look.
They hit the top end of the revs there. Adams was sort of I think we actually saw the car staying, was it 325 kilometers an hour and not really going any higher? I think that's the upper limit for Regenta Sim Racing, the way they've got their machine set up. We'll have a look here. The slipstream is still very strong. But then, getting to the top end of 6th gear, now to 7th.
Yeah, he's lifting.
He's lifting off, saving a little bit of fuel. Playing the long, smart game, knows there's still 2 hours to go. Flipping heck, we've had so much action in the first, 20 minutes. What do the next 2 hours have in store for us?
Absolutely. We may not have the biggest field in the world here tonight at this event, but I tell you what, we've certainly got a fantastic array of drivers. Everyone has always got somebody else to race against. We've got Fausto Pinto for Scalent Pro Driving, chasing down Kim Such for Orris Racing Green. He has a bit of a wobble. These two have both been racing against each other in the likes of the Porsche Club of Great Britain Sim Racing Series and, of course, in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge as well. So it's lovely to see them back out racing against one another again in very different machinery than we usually see them in. But as we've nearly got to the 2 hour mark left to go, just a quick recap. It's RD Sim Sport, Boosted Only John and Regenta Sim Racing, the top 3 in the LMDh category. Then Ben Chalcraft winning it at the moment for LMP2 in Renvort Remnants. Then Boosted Motorsport Blue, John Tusting also single-handedly driving this race. And then Waterside Gym Esports on for an LMP2 podium at the moment. And then it's Niles Core who, well, it's been no news is good news for Niles Core at the moment. Chicane Online Racing leading the way in the GTEs. He is also single-handedly driving this race. Mike Horder for Boosted Motorsport Pink, another one that is one-man army, this rubbish. Tim Perry next up as well. And it's actually quite surprising there's no Porsches in the top 3 in GTEs, as there's been a change for second overall as we give the recap. Taylor Adams up into second place for Regenta Sim Racing.
Here we go. Lovely, lovely moment for Regenta Sim Racing. Obviously the colours, resplendent colours of royalty, or at least associated with royalty, aren't they? The purple and gold, but will they be the kings of La Sarthe circuit here tonight? There's a 15-second gap they need to overhaul to RD Sim Sport in the front before they can even think about something like that first.
Look at the speed compared to the GTE Porsche. It's just amazing, isn't it? The speed difference between these cars. That's Peter Sikdar for RD Sim Sport 3. He's currently in 4th place in GTE, chasing down Tim Perry in the Altitude Esports car. Apologies for any iffy frame rates, by the way. At my end, I've just got some really dodgy frame rates all of a sudden. Something is definitely suffering somewhere, and I'm not quite sure in what way it is, because before now it had been alright, as I'm afraid Andy Hopley, I was saying for Waterside Gym Esports, they were on for a podium in the LMP2 category. I think he's just looped it on the exit here, Ed. Oh, he's actually looped it on the way in.
Very smart there with rejoining the circuit. Careful to avoid the wall. Just about.
That's gutting for them. Absolutely gutting. He was on for a podium position for the moment. Interestingly, Jacob Money is now making his way through the GTE traffic. So overall, he's still in 21st place behind some of the GTEs. But he's now making his way past a bunch of them. Fausto Pinto has lost a place to Stuart Clark, who had that big incident on the first lap. He's now...
Even with actually all the traffic, sorry to cut across you, but even with all the traffic, Jacob Money, fastest LMP2 car out there, just set the fastest lap of the race.
By 2 seconds as well. So he's absolutely on a mission, is Jacob Money. In terms of the actual time to the cars in front, he is 2 minutes 55 off them. And to be honest, it's not impossible to gain that sort of time back if his pace differential is still that strong. Because, I mean, we've got an 18-second gap in the same class at the very front of the field. So, not sure what... Oh,
Childcraft into the pits for LMP2.
Wow,
I mean,
it's been 25 minutes.
I think they take about 40 minutes or so on the fuel. 40 or 35, I think, on fuel tanks.
Yeah.
Just still a little bit earlier than I was expecting them to be in.
Yeah, for sure. John Tusting now across the line next. So he regains the lead in the class. Christopher Smith, who was effectively inheriting pole position. Yeah, Hopley in as well. So, yeah, clearly nothing out of the ordinary for Ben Chalcraft. I didn't see any damage on Hopley's car, so I don't think it's suffered. Wow, we're going to get a lot of pit stops from the LMP2s then, by the look of it. Their race is definitely going to be down to strategy. And obviously there's less of them in the field, so it certainly could get spicier amongst that smaller pack. This is Stuart Clark for Rusty's Roasts Racing. hoping to hot-foot it past Kim Such on the right-hand side, moves up into 6th place in GTE. Jesus Christ, Stuart, turn right, sunshine. Nearly a bit of contact there between the two of them, maybe just squeezing Kim slightly in the Ferrari. But Kim doing a good job at the moment. He's one of those drivers, isn't he, Ed, that we've seen progress time and time again from his very first sim races in a league in the GT4 Challenge, and now he's always getting better and better as we've had a purple lap by Archie Coveney.
Yeah, it's great to see, obviously, drivers would take their first forays into sim racing, which is why I'm so happy to see Toby Johns decided to have his first trip into the world of sim racing here with us with the Sim Racing Magazine events. It's a great little community to be a part of, and it really does help these drivers go from strength to strength and improve. I mean, we just saw earlier on, Toby Johns was way away from that curb on the exit there, a little bit too tentative, but now he's taken the lines a lot better. He's obviously got that car in front that's helping him find the line, Stephen Kershaw from Series 4 Racing. But still, it's about the way the drivers develop and get quicker and quicker all throughout the evening. And it's great now. Toby Johns is underneath the 4-minute barrier, which obviously some drivers will sort of turn their nose up at. But you have to think as well, beforehand, he hasn't really turned a wheel in anger around this circuit or any circuit on iRacing. So it's great to see him out there properly going for it.
Absolutely, and Stephen Kershaw's overdone it there, and he's got a battle on his hands. That's the best bit. He's got somebody around that he can fight with. So have all the boosted guys, actually, because it's Boosted Motorsport, Sim Sport, and then Motorsport Green, and then John Tusting actually next in the field for Boosted Motorsport Blue. These 3 cars all together in the Acuras. And what we were saying before about having 3 Cadillacs, then 3 Acuras, then a Porsche, the Porsche has actually now made its way past all 3 Acuras to then move up a place into 4th in class. So Boosted certainly hoping to be boosted together. Look at the way these cars move around this circuit there. They're just gliding around, aren't they? It's unbelievable the downforce they've got.
John Roberts had a little bit of a snap going through Tetra Rouge there. But it's Battle of the Boosteds all the way down the Mulsanne. Are they going to fight with one another, or are they going to try and help each other out? I mean, Baxter Jones is certainly disappearing off into the distance, and I'm not sure if they'll be able to catch him, even if they do work together. But of course, the race is still long in the tooth. There's plenty more to go. So actually, Coveney is continuing on in front of Taylor Adams. Has that gap come down? No, it hasn't. It's actually been growing. It's been very good for them. Out in front, Niels Kor's been growing his gap to Mike Horder, whose gap behind, I think, has been stabilising at around about 2 seconds.
Yeah, we see Tim Perry chasing him down here through the chicane. They've got a bit of traffic coming past now in the form of the LMDhs. One of them blinking in and out slightly there. That was, I believe, Ben Gregory. Lee Berridge goes through first, then Ben Gregory. Flashing the lights just for good measure. But yeah, we've got a BMW, a Ford, then a Corvette in terms of the GTEs. And then the Porsches follow on. Seems like John Roberts just taking it nice and easy here as the leaders in LMP2 are now in the pits. Going for tyres as well. I suppose they're going to be doing that many pit stops. They may as well take tyres, haven't they, Ed?
Yeah, and I think as well, across all of the classes, they do take tyres at the same time that they take fuel. So it isn't really necessary to worry too much about double stinting tyres as it used to be on the iRacing service. GTEs, though, I'm not sure if they've been updated to reflect that. I know the GT3s take tyres the same time as fuel, but I think the GTEs are still the outlier where tyres are done and then the fuel is done afterwards.
Interesting. We'll keep our eye on that. We'll have to wait for some GTE pit stops and see what happens.
Yeah. Hopefully we actually have some GTE runners that are in the chat that can shine a light on that, because I'm fairly certain they were left out of that change because they weren't really raced in officials at that point.
I was hoping that graphic on the right had been fixed and that I'd managed to sort that one out, but it seems like I've not carried across the right project file. It's 30 degrees on the circuit at the moment. It is 20 to 2 in the afternoon, but as you see, well, when you can get a good glimpse of the time that is progressing on that clock on the right hand side, it's progressing at double time. So it is currently 20 to 2 in the sim, but it won't be long now until it is 2 o'clock in the sim, and it should go through until about 6 p.m. here in this one. So we're going to be...
LMDh is into the pits as well, Chaz, around about halfway through the first hour of racing. So that's going to be exciting to see the amount of pit stops they're going to be having to.
Yeah, they're all in as well.
Look at that as well. I love the little change for the Porsche when it comes into the pit lane. The LED lights on the front sort of turn red. I love that little tweak that iRacing have done just to reflect how the car is in real life as well.
Interesting to see that none of them can make it an extra lap to sort of stretch out any fuel advantage. As here comes Matt Slight out of the pit lane, changing with Taylor Adams to take over from his teammate. Car 42 rejoins the circuit in second place. John Barnes has dropped back a little bit. He's got one of the RD SimSport machines behind him now, but still fighting together. What about the rest of them?
John Barnes has actually... Has he not come into the pits yet? Or
No, he has, yeah.
He's come into the pits. He's actually overtaken Johnny Elia now. He's taken over from Mark Jones.
John Barnes was third anyway. Johnny
he
Elia
was. Oh, sorry.
yeah.
I was seeing all the boosted cars together and thought they were all together.
No,
That's my mistake. Sorry.
No,
I thought it was all of them together. No, John Barnes has escaped that little
the bit where it
battle
got
of the boosted.
confusing was because John Tusting was leading the LMP2s, so it meant that we had 4 boosted cars in a row from LMDh to LMP2. That's my bad. But yeah, Johnny Elia rejoins in 4th place after taking over from Mark Baxter-Jones after a very lively first stint. I imagine Mark's gone for a lie down now. We've still got this battle going on in GTE. Tim Perry is now ahead of Mike Horder, and with the two of them fighting, Peter Sikdar's been able to stay in the picture, not too far off the back of them at the moment. So it's certainly intriguing from where Peter Sikdar is going to be sitting. But Mike Horder in this Ford GT chasing down that big beefy Corvette. It's a shame it doesn't make the same sort of noise as it used to, the Corvette. I mean, it's not really a Corvette in my eyes, it's more of a triangular McLaren, but it's a shame that it's not a V8. It makes an interesting noise, but it's just not what it was. It's not a big... I mean, look at the Daytona Classic we did with the Corvette C6R, you know, the big, massive thunderstorm V8. It's just not quite the same for me. It's a great looking car, though, in the Altitude Esports livery, isn't it?
For me, it's a bit like a Ferrari in a sort of...
Pointy.
Porsche, in a pointy costume, in a Corvette costume. It's still a very nice bit of kit, don't get me wrong. I will say, though, Tim Perry did used to race for Boosted once upon a time.
He did.
I wonder if there's been any love lost between Mike Horder and Tim, or if it's going to be a nice friendly battle. Is there a little bit edge to it? You know me, I'm a sim race commentator. I've got to add a little bit of
speculation.
You know, speculation. Stir the pot a bit. Keep the narrative going. But no, from what I remember, there was an amicable split.
Yeah, Altitude Esports have got a great amount to offer. You know, they're a wonderful, wonderful team run by great people. Mark Fletcher behind that squad, and he has a great group of guys with him. Tim's a wonderful, wonderful driver as well. Very exciting to watch is Tim as well. He raced in the CDM Formula 1 World Championship and was very entertaining. One of the only drivers that would really always send it, you know, proper, just got on with the job. He wasn't too worried about the fuel saving aspect and sitting in the train. He was one of the ones that wanted to just get on with it. We've had Niles Teasters have a moment here from the race lead, and that car is very, very damaged. So the race leader, with just under 2 hours to go, is in trouble. That's going to be an unscheduled stop for them. And well, nobody is immune, Ed. The first big drama. Oh, dearie me, that's a hardware problem. Whoa, dearie me.
And that is the equivalent of maybe a suspension failure or a brake failure or something that would be in the real life. And how many times have we seen mechanical dramas affect the outcome of top class racing at Le Mans?
Unreal.
Dearie me, there's something about this track that causes the drama, causes these little faults and little moments here and there that can completely change the course of one team's and therefore all the others around them, their races essentially. You have to be constantly adapting to what happens to your car. Also, any cars around, any misfortune, you have to be there to just pounce on it right away. Max Light is going to be, well, really pleased with the circumstance that he's finding himself in right now, leading the Sim Racing Magazine Cours au Mans for the first time here tonight.
Archie Coveney jumping into the RD SimSport car as they drop to the back of the category. Tim Perry has been in the pits for the GTEs, and it's a 22-second stop. That says to me that either he's only taken fuel or they can take fuel and tyres at the same time. But it's also meant that Mike Horder is still under pressure somehow, as Peter Sikdar is now behind him, and we've still got 3 manufacturers in the top 3.
Let's have a look. Is there any fast cars that will come behind that might slow Mike Horder down on this lap? I think I saw an outline of a prototype in behind. It was the
I think it's the Porsche,
car of
isn't
Johnny Elia.
Yeah.
I might slow these pair down later on into the lap, maybe around about the Porsche curves. We'll have a look and see. It's difficult to really judge the closing speed of those two different machinery. Ben Gregory, though, with his boosted compatriots in behind him, Lee Barrage and John Roberts there with him. Obviously, this is good practice for the drivers, for the teams as well, with upcoming endurance races. Is Petit Le Mans just around the corner?
It happened just on the weekend, just gone.
Oh, that was it. Never mind.
Yeah, it literally just happened over the weekend. I didn't catch up much with the results, though, to be honest with you. We did actually get a message earlier from Swiffer18, which I think is Niles Core. I think that's his username. I'm pretty sure it is Niles. He said there hasn't been a 24 Hours Le Mans special event for 2 years already because Motorsport Games got an exclusive license. So iRacing don't even run the 24 Hours Le Mans anymore. That's absolutely devastating because that's the one event I'd really wanted to do.
I can't remember if they run it under something else though, because I don't think they run it as a special event, but I think they run it as part of their like iRacing Endurance series or something. And like one of the normally there's 6 hours, but I think they have one round which is at Le Mans, which is 24 hours or something like that. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. There have been races around the circuit. Obviously, I think there's the Majors 24 series that I remember taking part in earlier on in the year that was around Le Mans, which a lot of teams took part in because it was essentially their way to get their Le Mans fix for the year on iRacing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly a good way of going about it. The battles continue on in the LMDh class as John Roberts now overtakes his teammate Lee Berridge. Boosted Motorsport Green overtaking Boosted Motorsport Virage. And they make their way through more traffic. Ben Gregory disappears up the road. It looks like Ben's got lucky with some of the traffic there. Here is the GTE leader, Niles Core, into the pit lane. Another stunning livery from Chicane Online Racing. Their spec maps are absolutely delightful. And Niles paid great attention to the decals that we have for the series as well and made sure that, you know, it didn't foul any of the livery or anything and that his livery didn't ruin how the number boards looked. He's always great at cooperating in championships as Niles. Now let's see, does the car go up on the jacks? We will wait for a moment. I mean, we've got a while left of the race, so we can spend the time having a look. We'll see if it does go up on the jacks or not.
I'm not seeing it, you know.
No.
Maybe they'll carry it going, and then next pit stop they'll change the tyres. Yeah, it seems like they only just do the fuel, not the tyres. So they are the only class that doesn't do tyres the same as the fuel. So there's an extra element of strategy in the GTE field to keep your eyes on. I'll imagine they'll probably do the race on 2 tyre sets. So I'll have the set that they obviously started the race on, then change probably midway through and have that set on up until the end. Because I would struggle to think they'd be able to make it, at least with the track temperatures as they are, on 1 set of tyres.
Toby Johns just had a little debacle there off the circuit at the second chicane, but came back on. And I needed to bring your attention to this, Ed, because there's Matt Slight, race leader, but only 1.4 seconds back now is John Barnes. John Barnes is starting to reel him back in again. It's great inconsistencies between these two in terms of their pace. John streaked away in second place earlier on in the race, and then suddenly got caught up by Matt Slight. By Taylor Adams. Taylor went through, and now John Barnes seems to have the legs on Matt Slight for the moment. So that's the interesting thing about the fact that some of these drivers are single-handedly driving this race, and other drivers, or teams at least, have more than one driver in the race, because you'll get a bit more of a variation in pace for the drivers or the teams that have somebody else to share the car with. So plenty of elements that move in races like this. That's why I love it.
Then there'll also be variations from the single driver entries as the fatigue begins to kick in the latter stages, so it'll all balance itself out even more, which would be wonderful to see. Oh, dearie me, that looked like a little bit of indecision around the back marker from John Barnes trying to get around Toby Johns. A little bit indecisive there, which lost him some ground to that slight, but when we look around, it was, I think, 2.8 seconds, 2.4 seconds last I looked. That slight did go about half a second faster than John on the previous lap. But John, from the efforts he's done through that first half a lap, bringing it to underneath 1 second, he's really motoring along and piling the pressure on the race leader.
Lee Berridge has had a moment down at the bottom of the hill, and unfortunately just going straight on there and being overtaken by Archie Coveney. Now don't forget, this car was the one leading the race by over 10 seconds earlier on, and now having to make up the ground, but nobody's immune from any sort of technical failure, and it's part of what keeps the racing spicy for us. Obviously our hearts go out to Archie and his teammate Niles Teasters, but we know that they're going to fight back and do the best that they can. Jacob Money is still fighting back as well. What was it we said? He was 2 minutes 55 off the leaders earlier on. Well, he's 2 minutes 50 now, so he's still gaining time on the leaders in class. But I tell you what, the Renvort Remnants doing a great job at the moment. They joined the event for a bit of fun and to get involved in an endurance event like this, and well, they're absolutely smashing it at the moment. 10 seconds clear of Boosted Motorsport Blue. John Tusting is on his own mission, as Johnny Elia has had a moment at the Ford chicane there, but he gets going again without any damage. But yeah, the battle was on for the LMP2 second place a minute ago. I was just looking at it. John Tusting is now only 1.2 seconds ahead of Christopher Smith for RD Simsport 2, and Chris is now pushing like mad. We know just how good Chris is from the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Probably one of the most sort of underrated drivers in that series to have not won a race because of his fantastic strategic capabilities. But he's just got... when you've got no bottle, it means that like you'll fall apart, doesn't it? Is it the other way
but then
around?
they also say that you've bottled it, which means that you've got bottle and then I don't know.
Oh,
it's very confusing. It was, oh dear, Ryan Penny a little bit too late on the brakes. He certainly bottled it into that corner, losing the place now to Russell Clark, who goes up ahead. Having a look though at Christopher Smith, he's been sort of there or thereabouts in terms of the lap times, at least on the previous trip. Sort of even with John Tusting, quicker by a little bit. On the whole, he is certainly the faster of the two drivers, battling for second place, but catching is one thing, passing is something else, and in these LMP2 cars, flipping heck, it's so difficult to properly make a clean pass in these.
Yeah, catching is one thing, overtaking is quite another. A very famous phrase said by a wonderful human being who would have celebrated his 100th birthday today, the great Murray Walker. And, of course, we'll all be raising a glass to Murray later on, even during the broadcast, I should imagine, as a great man, bless him, passed away March 2021, and well, we were live on air at the time actually when we found out doing an endurance event at Imola. It's amazing.
Funny old thing, isn't it?
That long.
One of the men that got us into this business, and of course, while doing the very thing he loved most, is when we found out the news. It was absolutely gutting, but to be fair, it's almost poetic in a way, isn't it? Sort of the way that it's all worked out in the end, especially for you, Chaz. I mean, you're able to fly around the world and do all these wonderful events. I'll hopefully be able to follow on with you a few years later on. And it was a lot of it down to that one man, isn't it?
Absolutely. Inspired a generation, did Murray Walker, and he may not know or ever known, how many people he really did inspire and how many people enjoyed his commentary, but yeah, we are always grateful to have witnessed the man do what he does best. And yeah, I mean, people say I'm lucky to fly around the world and do all these things. I do love it, but I didn't love the 7-day hangover I've only just recovered from after Madrid with the trucks, I tell you. Anyway, Ryan Penny, well, he's going to have a bit of a hangover if he has to look at the back of that Rusty's Roast Racing Porsche anymore. He's going to have a hangover with the headache that the noise it's causing. Flipping heck. Flings the car to the left. I'm not quite sure what was going on there. Has he got some sort of damage or something? I'm not sure if something went on there, because the car went suddenly left, and it was almost as if he was trying to figure out whether it was the car that was sort of off kilter, like the steering wasn't working. Hey, has he had a slowdown penalty?
Got a slowdown that he's been trying to serve, I imagine, which is why it's all off balance.
Oh God, excuse me. That made me jump. We've got Jacob Money still going, still trying to make it past all the GTEs now. 7.8 seconds off Niles Core. It's been a good recovery from him so far, to be fair, and he's gained another couple of seconds on Ben Chalcraft, who leads in the LMP2 category.
I think as well, it's a real testament to the performance of Jacob Money, because he's having to do this while stuck in GTE traffic. That he's racing for position. So this is a really well-driven recovery by Jacob Money. He is the nearest car ahead of him is Paul Stout, who's 1 minute 56 up the road. So he needs to make up essentially 2 minutes before he'll be onto the back of the LMP2 field.
But it's not an entire lap.
It's not a whole lap. That's the important thing. And of course, there's still plenty of time in this race, about 1 hour 40. Not even at the halfway point yet.
Yeah.
So there's scope for Jacob to recover and improve on that 6th place he finds himself in at the moment.
Matt Slight has opened up his gap at the front of the field yet again for Regenta Sim Racing. They are now 2.5 seconds clear of boosted Only John, and then Johnny Elia and his teammate Mark Baxter-Jones currently running in 3rd position for 11 Cents Racing Team, trying to get that Porsche on the podium. And considering that car was backwards at the very first corner, that's a fantastic effort at this moment in time. Renvort Remnants leading in LMP2 from Boosted Motorsport Blue, then RD Simsport 2, and Niles Core in GTE, well, he's been untouchable at the moment, leading that category and just doing the fastest lap of the race in class in one of 2 BMW M8s in the field. Then it's Tim Perry in the Altitude Esports Corvette, and he is 5.5 seconds clear of Peter Sikdar in the Porsche for RD Simsport 3. I'm not sure if Peter... Peter is sharing that car with Rob Jackson, who we're going to see in that machine a little bit later. There's some great team lineups going on here. Russell Clark is off the road. Russell Clark has been overtaken by Ryan Penny and has gone off the track here. He's on the inside line. He's turned in well early. And there is contact, which puts Russell in the wall. I don't think Ryan could have done anything there, really.
Particularly, we'll have a look here from this shot. It's just it happens so quickly. He does stay to the left on the exit. Tries to slow it down enough, but if he was to slam on the brakes while going through that left-hander, he would have had an accident himself. Probably taken them really out. So thankfully it was just a little bit of a ding. But Russell Clark, he might be needing to come into the pits because that was a hefty whack that he got to the left rear, wasn't it? I'm not sure if that's locked out of alignment.
Yeah, hopefully not for his sake, and hopefully that it's all good. This is Rob Sutherland for RD Simsport 4. Rob sharing the car with the always rapid James Holman tonight, so a strong lineup indeed, as they just get lapped there by Ben Chalcraft from Renvort Remnants, who lead in LMP2 by 9 seconds at the moment. Niles Core, he's just been absolutely on fire in GTEs at the moment though. Chicane Online racing car running down the middle of the straight. Interesting to see people still doing that, because the straights here at Le Mans have a sort of slight crest to the middle of them, and there is theory that if you run the car down the spine of that sort of rise in the middle, you do go a little tiny bit quicker. It doesn't make a massive difference, but it makes a difference enough to make it worth doing, because the centre of the car and the floor of the car is sucked in slightly and just runs along that little bit smoother. You can see him doing it again there, just to gain those extra decimal places of a kilometre an hour. Interesting little thing to see that though, isn't it? Especially from a car as big as the M8.
It does work out. So around about a 1/10 of a second or so.
Yeah.
Down each sort of section of the Mulsanne straight, which, if you think about it, you've obviously got the bit coming out of Tetra Rouge. You've got the bit off the first chicane, then after the second as well. That's roughly about 3/10 that can get it done. It does help you out a little bit, so it's something for the drivers to consider. Of course, when you've got cars in behind, it's not worth sitting in the middle of the track. It's worth just staying in sort of your lane essentially and just letting the other one go by. Because if you run out into the middle of the circuit, that's when dangers can arise. I've once had a really intense battle in GTEs around here, and then one car decided to try and get the upper hand onto the middle of the circuit, and as the crest falls away and settles the car, they move a bit more further right than they expect, and then they crash into you. And that's just something that the drivers need to be aware of. It's good all by yourself in qualifying, it's fine, but in the races when you're side by side, it's just a little bit too risky to try and do.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the risk versus reward just isn't there in that situation, so you may as well just drive your line and do what you can. Look at Niles Core wrestling this thing through the final corners. It's just gorgeous to watch. Really gorgeous driving indeed. We've got John Tusting just 8 tenths now ahead of Christopher Smith in the LMP2 category. Christopher Smith continuing to reel him in for second position. Archie Coveney is also chasing down Ben Gregory in the LMDh class. We'll go and have a look at that in a moment's time if nothing arises here. And apparently Neil's had a screen failure in the LMDh car. So really, really unfortunate stuff for Neil's T-step. And look, traffic affecting this here, Ed, as Christopher Smith now gets right up behind John Tusting in the LMP2s.
No, Christopher needs to get right on past Rob Sutherland, which he does. With the left-hander. Because he didn't take enough of the curb at the penultimate corner. And that's where you can really make a lot of time, is by getting that sort of second-class corner nailed to maximise the time while you're on the throttle through the final bend.
That's now for the lead in the class as well. As for the lead of the race, it's close as well. They've had a little bit of traffic here on the final section of the circuit as Andy Hopley in the Waterside Gym Esports car has been lapped in LMP2. This is the lead for the battle for the lead of the race, and this is the battle through the Porsche curves as Archie Coveney chases down Ben Gregory, Cadillac chasing down Acura, and again, look at the speed of these things through here. It's an absolute marvel of engineering. But Archie needs to be patient here. He can't send it on Ben. It'll get messy here. Ben is a very fierce defender. Ben is not scared of making the moves that other people would not want to. Ben will defend until the cows come home. Archie is on a real mission here. Tries to look down the inside. Ben says no. Ben's going to drive like he's not there. Ben's just going to drive his line, and he's going to say, no, I'm not letting you have a single inch here, Archie. But this is great battling all the same again. Two different cars, two very different drivers on the circuit together. RD Simsport certainly fired up and hoping to go forward in the pack, and well, Archie Coveney gets a good enough run down the start-finish straight that he's done it before turn 1.
Lovely move there by Archie, getting up and ahead. Has to be a recovery drive now for RD Simsport. Recover they certainly are at the moment. No such need for any recovery out ahead, as even the LMDHs are doing that little technique, running along the centre line of the circuit. Moving towards the second Mulsanne chicane. Are they going to take different lines or roughly the same approach? See, Matt's like, he does take a bit more of the curb, and it helps him through the corners take that sort of apex speed a little bit higher. Being in behind John Barnes, he can't necessarily take the curb because it can unsettle the car even more with the dirty air, which isn't really a welcome comfort for him. So you can see that he's dropped back just a bit because Matt Slight was able to take the slightly more optimal line over the curbs.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, is Matt Slight. Again, apologies for the frame rates, everybody. It seems like that I'm not losing frames in particular from the actual broadcast, but it's dropping a little bit. Just there's the odd stutter here and there by the look of it on my side. I'm not sure if it's coming through exactly the same on the stream, but hopefully you're all enjoying the show. Let us know what you think of the race so far in the chat. We can see the YouTube chat. We will interact with you where possible. And of course, we just hope you enjoyed the broadcast, as always, here from Sim Racing Magazine Events on Chaz Draycott Media. Of course, sponsored by the wonderful Orris Digital and Derbyshire Holiday Homes. Thank you very much to our great sponsors. And thanks to Andy Marston at Sim Racing Magazine as well for being a part of all of this. And of course, with his blessing, running these events together with myself. And it's always an absolute pleasure. Unfortunately, Andy not out there in the field this evening, as he has been stricken by internet troubles for his teammate Paul Goffin, and Andy will not be running the race on his own. Lee Berridge, I'm afraid, I think he's now out of the race. I think Lee has just called it a day there. He's had a rough night of it so far, Ed. Maybe one incident too.
Ooh.
What was that?
The throttle got stuck up. You could hear when it hit the wall, the throttle got stuck open. The car sort of violently snapped to the right there. Look at that, instantly.
Yeah, that's like a hardware failure, isn't it? It's like the steering wheel just went in a straight line.
It's like, have you, I'm sure you've played Euro Truck. Have you ever been driving along the wheel and you've pressed one of the arrow keys?
Yeah, and then suddenly it's like...
It suddenly veers to the right, look.
Yeah, yeah.
Full lock,
yeah.
To the right. Sounds like the throttle gets stuck open as well.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden he's regained control, but for that brief moment where it snapped over, that was it. Race over.
That's such a shame for Lee Berridge. He was having a difficult time in qualifying and practice, and to be fair to him, he just cracked on with it and he carried on. You know, he could have very easily given up earlier, but he's stuck with it and tried to get the most out of the car that he could. and he's continued to get better and better, and then yeah, it's gone down in terms of hardware for him there. Andy Hopley into the pits. That looked very, very slow, but it is a really low pit lane speed here at Le Mans. Got a good battle going on for the lead of the race still, as Matt Slight and John Barnes are still glued together. Just checking the Sim Racing Magazine Discord as well, by the way. Stuart Clark has said to Heinz Mayer, big apologies from me, I missed the braking board, I was already up the inside, I tried my best to avoid you, but it obviously wasn't enough. He said he realised as soon as he saw he realised it as soon as he saw in his mirror that it was just an easy mistake to make. So all is fair in love and war, and again, the fantastic community that we have here at Sim Racing Magazine and everybody involved, always getting along as always. We love to see it. The fierce competition is always there, but everybody still gets on. Now this is interesting here, Ed, because we've got the lead battle in the overall race in the LMDhs catching the lead battle in the LMP2s here, both of which separated by less than a second.
Heck, this is very exciting, isn't it now? All of the action out on circuit as we get into the final hour and a half's worth of racing here in the South Circuit. What will occur as John Barnes, is he going to slide up both of them? Maybe. There's a bit of communication between the two boosted teammates.
Oh,
hopefully.
Great by
not
Christopher
the greatest.
Smith.
Christopher Smith, he's going to take advantage of that. He saw what was happening, knew that for John Barnes' sake, he would have to go up the inside of his stablemate John Tusting. Christopher Smith now with the nose ahead. He'll have the inside line for the first part of Indianapolis, but the left-hander will go to John Tusting if he can stay there. But John backs out, gives the corner to Christopher Smith. Now, will they work together to save fuel, or is Christopher Smith going to take advantage of his good pace and try and break away into the lead of the race?
Well, to be fair, this is the 16th lap for these guys, and the Renvort remnants came in on lap 14. And Philip Hopley and Charlie Stout, the Waterside Gym Esports and Incam Racing teams, both came in on the previous lap, on lap 15. So there is a bit of a discrepancy between when the LMP2 cars are coming in here. Renvort remnants were leading it earlier. They're 40 seconds off this lead battle now, and a pit stop is about half a minute, but you're in the pit lane for about a minute and a half if you do it wrong. So it's about a minute, sorry. Interesting.
What I find equally interesting is we've seen another driver in the interview waiting room who's currently out on circuit.
No. No.
So I don't think that's worth looking at.
John Barnes going straight on at the Ford chicanes there.
And that's going to be a hefty slowdown. Was that evasive action potentially to avoid the Porsche up in front?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was, you know. Let's have a look. Oh, we're a bit late to the party with that one. And this is way too far back, I'm afraid. Yeah, well, we know what the result is. 2.3 seconds now to John Barnes. We've got Christopher Smith and John Tusting coming in the pit lane for the LMP2 lead. Ben Chalcraft getting another fan in the chat. Chatfield3427 saying Renvort with lots of exclamation marks. Very excited by the Renvort remnants doing what they do best and doing well and going rapid. Now we should have a change for the lead here as Ben Chalcraft now comes around the final couple of corners to cross the line. It's been a solid effort by them so far, to be fair. I think they were probably going in tonight aiming for a podium in class, but they've absolutely smashed it at this moment in time. The guys haven't even started leaving the pit lane yet. And yeah, Ben Chalcraft flies by and off he goes. I'm afraid we've had a bit of an off in a moment for one of our sponsors here, Ed, Drew Fletcher.
Oh dear, and the car really gets out of shape. You can see the rear end actually breaking away through the right-hander of Indianapolis, which you don't see at all.
No, it really just broke away from him, didn't it, over the right-hander. Oh, he taps the brakes and it just doesn't want to behave. And it's a big hit into the wall, but you know what? He recovers very absolutely rapid, doesn't he? Bounces it back, cleared for pushback, Drew, and away he goes.
Very close to, I think that was Charlie Stout that came by. Nearly tagged the rear end, but I guess had good vision. Knew the speed that the LMP2 was coming at. Here we are out ahead, though, and John Barnes, after that hiccup, he's caught right back up. Game is well and truly on for them now in the lead of the race. Matt Slight needs to start looking to cover and maybe think about defending. It's John Barnes. Good hit on the apex, but struggling to get the power down. that slight, certainly with a nicer exit, but maybe missing the apex could be the way to drive these cars around here, though, is sort of run wide but keep the speed up in it, because when you put the power down in these, they do have a tendency to sort of spin the wheels with the hybrid deployment.
Yeah, they do, don't they? They sort of kick up into an extra gear that the rear wheels can't always handle. But yeah, great racing by these two at the front now. It's a massive shame what happened to RD Simsport, but by the way, they've actually now moved up into third place overall. Archie Coveney has overtaken Johnny Elia. Archie's on a mission here in this RD Simsport machine, and yeah, Johnny doesn't want to fight that one too hard. He's saying, look, you're running your race, I'm going to run mine. You go ahead, you do what you're doing. Doesn't put too much risk on the table there, does Johnny Elia. Very clever driving. He certainly knows what he wants to do. Jacob Money's in the pit lane, by the way, in the LMP2 category in 6th place. There he is. Takes tyres as well, so he's going to be on fresh rubber for his next run around the circuit. A lot moving.
Say this, Chaz. Archie Coveney could still be a shout for the race victory. You know, he was around about a minute or 50 seconds or so back from Matt Slight in the lead of the race before having to pit for damages. Now, well, after pitting for damages, sorry. In that stint, he's brought the gap down to what, around about 36 seconds.
Yeah, he's absolutely on a mission, isn't he?
He's still got plenty of time to go in this race, especially if these pair are going to battle like they've been threatening to do for quite some time now. It's going to be very tasty indeed out in front, as we're starting to see the effect of the 2 times sort of weather acceleration, the daylight acceleration, because there's a few more tints to the sky while the track temperature has risen by a degree. I imagine it might start to just edge towards cooling down now as we're past, what is that?
Coming up to 3
half
o'clock.
past 2 in sim time?
Yeah, just over an hour since the last time we checked, actually. So just coming up to 3 o'clock in sim. We should get it to about 6 p.m. here, and it is the real date as well, so it is on there as the 10th of October in the simulator, so the sun does go down as it does at this sort of time of year. So by about 6 o'clock it should be getting into some sort of twilight, which will be nice. Great way to finish the race. It'll be very golden by the end.
Not a good movie though.
No.
Or book series.
No, awful. But we've got all of our LMDh's in, and Archie Coveney, well, he's gone. He's half a minute ahead now, these guys, so they're all out of sync with the pit stops. They came in on lap 10 to then take the damages and, take the repairs, not take the damages, take the repairs and everything. So 8 laps before Taylor Adams and John Barnes, and that was their second stop, so it's about 9 laps as well, because let's not forget, Niles Teester was on his first lap out when he had that incident, wasn't he? So it's not like he had a long time in the car. There's no fair share rule in this either, by the way, because we have teams out there and drivers that are on their own. There's no fair share rule that needs to be adhered to. So the drivers can do as long as they want in each car, as long as one of the drivers that's sort of signed up with them does actually take part in said car.
I believe iRacing's fair share rule is pretty lenient as well, actually. I think from memory, in these sorts of events, you could easily do maybe even a 2/3 of a stint. Yeah. Especially with the reduced fuel limit, it'd be fine. So I'll imagine if there are any 2-car teams, it should be all right. Regardless, we don't need to look at any foul play or such of drivers only going out there 1 lap and having their teammate do all the others.
Yeah, there's
there we go, though, for Johnny Elia. It's going to be a lonely race, I think, because he's way off of John Barnes, and with a nice healthy gap to Ben Gregory behind, it's going to be a little bit lonely for Johnny now after all the excitement of the earlier stages.
Yeah, it's a big shame, but the Porsche going strong at the moment in 4th place. Interesting to see the massive cutout on that front arch, isn't it? Because usually on these prototypes and these hypercars, you see a very clean, closed front end by them all. But with this Porsche, you get the sort of cutout over along the top of it, obviously helping the airflow over the top of the car and giving it some sort of vortex on that front end. Lee Berridge has said, by the way, that his VR headset blue screened on him, so it just completely died, and he steered it right into the barrier, because at the end of the day, if it's going to go wrong like that, he didn't want to be in anybody's way. So quick thinking by Lee. Sorry to see it though, buddy, and we do hope to see him back out on circuit. I think he is. No, he's not. He's 0.02. It says that he's done a lap, but I think that's just because the last time he was in the car, it was part way down the pit lane. Here's Ben Chalcraft then, leading in the LMP2 class for Renvort Remnants. Renvort, a circuit on Circuit Superstars. Ben sent me a message the other day just to give me the reference as to why the team is called that. Instead of running as Minardi Simsport, it's a reference to the 24 Minutes of Renvort, which was a Circuit Superstars event that only Original Fire Games put back on during the early access of Circuit Superstars when they released it. And they both competed, did Ben and Mike, just for different teams back when that happened.
The little track map of Renfort then on the end plates of the rear wing.
Yes, it is. That's a fantastic spot.
That is.
Fantastic spot, Ed. They'll appreciate that. See if we can slow mo
what
it.
That was.
See if we can slow mo it. There you go. Look, yeah, that is the track map of Renvort. I can tell you because it's basically Zandvoort. Is Renvort. That's fantastic. Nicely spotted, mate. I'm proud. Yeah, you should be proud of that.
I'm happy with that. I'm well chuffed. Don't need me eyes tested. That's good. I can keep my peepers 2020 as they are for a little while. Here we are,
makes
though.
One of us in the commentary box.
It's Easter's. Well, the amount I'm looking at screens nowadays, I'll take it while I can. Anyway, Niels Teester's carrying on in the actually taking over, isn't he, from Archie?
I was going to say, Ed, to be fair though, mate, without my eyes are, mate, I can look at both screens at once at the moment. With Niles Teester makes his way back out onto the circuit.
Fingers crossed, no issues for Niels. Obviously, had that really unfortunate hard rushing through no fault of his own, of course. You can see how difficult the car's to control on fresh tyres. Really sliding as it puts the power down out of the Dunlop chicane. It's all about just getting the car nice and settled and warmed up. Getting tentative over that horrible little bump as you're coming up toward Tetra Rouge. It's so easy to make a mistake if you get slightly offline. The car reacts in an unhappy way. And you find yourself in those barriers that are incredibly close either side of you. So it's really, really worrying. You're going to have your sort of heart falling out of your mouth at points, especially when you feel the wheel get a little bit lighter through there, because it's not necessarily an area where you want it to be, going at that speed with the walls so close. Meanwhile, James Holman coming in and now out of the pits, and that was up on the jacks. That looks like a tyre change for RD Simsport. Probably their only one of the race as we are approaching half distance.
James Holman.
In about a few minutes' time, we will have hit that mark, won't we, Chaz?
Absolutely. James Holman taking over from Rob Sutherland. James, as we all know, is absolutely rapid in the Porsches, especially in the GT4 cars. He was up for the title in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge in the third season, and we hope to see him back again for more of the same. It's great to have him back on the grid this evening with the boss man as well, Rob Sutherland. As always, RD Simsport supporting these championships and events greatly, and we are very, very grateful for it. Taylor Adams, by the way, has retaken the reins of the Regenta Sim Racing Cadillac. He now leads the race. Boosted only John, still of course just John Barnes behind the wheel of that car. Second place, RD Simsport's Niles Teesters has now held on to third, actually. He's 8 seconds clear of Johnny Elia, even after the pit stop. That's how fast this car has been. Archie Coveney and Niles Teesters doing a great job at the moment. They have regained that all Cadillac podium, as he's just put a lap on one of his teammates there, Guy Edwards, in the RD Simsport 2 car. He's currently on for a podium in his class as well. I believe that the wonderful Heinz Mayer and his brother Ralph Mayer are putting up prizes from Crockery Direct for having the medals and certificates for the top 3 in each class. They are always a very proud sponsor of our events, and it's lovely to have them on board. Honestly, Heinz is a fantastic bloke, very funny, and after knowing about my plane spotting ventures, every so often when he's travelling and he's at an airport, he'll send me a picture of whatever aircraft he can see that seems interesting, for which I'm very grateful, Heinz. But he's always lovely to chat with. And, well, to be fair, our other sponsor of the championship does the same as well. Drew Fletcher is a pilot. He's a full-blown captain. Flies Airbus A320s, A320s Neos, and all sorts. And he has helped me massively with my flight sim ventures on my YouTube channel, which, if you haven't seen, you will find hilarious because I'm rubbish at it. But Drew is, an absolute star. Really lovely bloke as well. Actually took me to a full-blown A320 cockpit simulator a while ago as well, because we don't live too far apart. And yeah, very, very generous man and a lovely bloke as well is Drew Fletcher. Out there this weekend, or this evening I should say, with his teammate Stephen Kershaw. Currently running 8th place in the GTE class, trying to chase down Ryan Penny. Drew and Ryan had quite the rivalry actually in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. They were always messaging each other about how they got on in their races between events. But a solid GTE field, all still running at the moment, including Toby Johns as well, making his debut out here in a Sim Racing Magazine event as well. And to be fair, Ed, he's not really been far off the pace at all, to be honest with you. Just over the 4-minute mark last time round, but traffic involved as well. That's not bad going at all.
Yeah, and we caught him actually through the first one on chicane. He was kicking the rear out a little bit there, trying to wrestle with the car. Realised that he's properly pushing along. Maybe not got quite the setup underneath him.
Yeah, that's something we haven't spoken about,
That's something that we need to think about as well, is that the drivers, especially if you're on a car that isn't set up for Le Mans, you can be really far off the pace just through no fault of your own. I mean, the lines he's taken, pretty good. Not far off of what the top drivers are doing, and good awareness of all of the traffic in behind as well.
Yeah.
That was John Barnes in second place. Got all the makings of a really good endurance driver. It's just about getting the lines and being aware of what's around you, and then it's just about getting the pace, which is something that's easily doable. It's a lot easier to teach a driver to take the corners a bit quicker and to take the lines more optimally than it is to sort of teach them about awareness of what's going around them.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you do get a driver that's relatively new to the scene, the one thing that it's hard to teach, like you say, is awareness. And it's great to see that straight out of the gates, Toby Johns is always aware of the cars coming up behind him. You know, he's making sure he's not getting in anybody's way in the race. He's letting the lap traffic through, and he's making it very clear to them what he's going to do. You know, he's not leaving it to the last second. Yeah, he's not leaving it to the last second to jump out of the way, is he?
And that's what you love to see, because you know that down the line, he's going to keep that while then developing his pace. It's corners like these which are always a nightmare to do, because you've got a quick right into a left that you've got to slow down even more for, and then this slowest corner of the circuit again. Puff of the sort of brakes there as it was struggling. It's so easy to lock up through there. He's got, well, the second place car in GTE right behind him, Tim Perry. Just about to go by. Tim's going to have a bit of a lonely time of things as well, actually, because he's got 20 odd seconds to Neil's call, which is bonkers.
And Tim is no slouch either. Tim is fast. No. Tim is very, very fast. He's a really good driver, is Tim. He does his own sort of track guides and car guides as well on his YouTube channel, and puts his sim racing ventures on there. And yeah, he is no slouch at all. He's one of Altitude Esports' finest. But it just shows you, I mean, Narscole's just done another purple lap in GTE. Just shows you how rapid this boy is, doesn't it? Put him in a big BMW and he's untouchable, isn't he?
There's nobody that can get anywhere near him at this moment in time. He's got the car set up beautifully as well. You can just see the way it rides the curbs. It doesn't seem to react in any sort of adverse way. He's got the car nailed into how he wants it. Looks purposeful, and I'll tell you what, soon about that M8, it's wonderful. You get the nice crackles of it as well when it slows down, especially on the downshifts.
Ben Chalcraft back in.
What remnants going through from the lead of the race. John Tusting, has he been able to extend the stint to go ahead, or will we see the boosted car coming? No, John Tusting has extended, continued on. Like Hordas as well, carried on as Tim Perry's coming to the pits now. That seems relatively early for the GTE pit stop.
Yeah, he's managed to come in a bunch of laps before. There's quite the spread in the pit stops now with the GTEs and in the LMP2s as well. So we'll have to keep our eye on that. Looks like tyres for Mike Murphy, who now gets behind the wheel of the Remvor Remnants car. Great to see Mike
tyres for
taking the circuit.
Tim there, I don't think.
No.
Which is interesting, because we did see other cars take tyres, didn't we, I think?
Yeah, I wondered whether Tim took them earlier on, because he didn't do a long pit stop earlier either, so intriguing. Still very intriguing. Hopefully at some point we'll get more information about that in our timing software, and there'll be a definite way of iRacing telling us who's taken tyres and who's not, just so we at least know, without us having to visually see it there and then. We can usually tell by the times, because the GTE pit stops are closer to 45, 46 seconds when they take tyres as well as fuel. But when it comes to the LMP2s, they can sort of do it in around the same time. Mike Murphy was in the pits then for 35.7 seconds. They've only pitted 4 laps after Guy Edwards and John Tusting as well. So I'm not sure if they're going to do an entire extra pit stop compared to the other guys here, but they are pitting the earliest of all of them. It was the first LMP2 car to come in the pits at the start of the race, or at the first stint anyway. And since then, they have pitted at least 1 lap earlier than everybody else, and that gap is increasing more and more, so they may do an extra pit stop in total. With the gap they've had, though, they shouldn't be too worried, but it's not enough of a gap to hold that lead if they do have an extra stop.
No, it isn't. So we'll keep our eyes on the way that the race is going to develop for them. I imagine pretty much all of the GTEs will make it on a 3-stop now, looking at the times they came into the pits. Maybe Peter Sigdar's slight question mark over him. He came in on lap 11. His first up, latest of all of the GTE runners. He's currently in 2nd place. Even if he does take 1 pit stop short of the Nils core, still might not be enough to overthrow him in his 40-second lead that he has over Peter at this moment in time, which is bonkers. To be fair to Nils, he is absolutely rapid at the moment.
Yeah, he's on a
Speaking
mission.
of rapid, actually, Regenta Sim Racing, they've built that gap and extended it now over John Barnes.
Yeah, I think based on what we saw earlier, I think Taylor just had the edge over John in the stint that he was doing. And I think when it changed over, this is in no disrespect to Matt Slight, but I think Matt Slight was a bit more closely matched to John Barnes' pace. I think Taylor's just got that little bit of an edge over him, and he's pushing this Cadillac like mad. It looks beautiful through there, especially in their colour scheme. Very simple and straightforward colour scheme, but look at that. Look at the commitment through Tetra Rouge and then onto the back straight. Remarkable stuff to watch these LMDh cars go. Niles Court into the pits yet again. He's taking fuel on board as of right now. He's joined in the pits by fellow M8 of Orris Racing Yellow. Yeah, one thing we did want to touch on is the fact that these setups are open in this. In a lot of our events and even our championships as well, we often go for fixed setups because it just makes it a lot more of a level playing field for everybody, and it keeps it really intriguing because we do get some pretty big teams that come into these events. You know, we had Apex Racing Academy in the last couple of seasons of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, and as you'll all probably know, they have fantastic access to amazing setups for pretty much all cars. But it's just a case of, oh hello, there was a bit of a moment there actually between the LMP2s and one of the it is Peter Sikdar, isn't it? Yeah, there was a bit of a moment then. But I was going to say, it's one of those events now where we have an open setup, so you do see a variation in how each car performs, not just because of the driver, but the setups as well. RD Simsport working together there. Toby Johns, I'm afraid, has had a big drama down at Indianapolis, and he's let the car roll to try and get it out of the way, and the number 10 of Philip Hopley tries to go by without any dramas. But if we just go to that moment and look at Peter Sikdar, Gregory giving the car a bit of a wobble down the straight there. This is what happened with Peter. Oh, dearie me. Jump over the curbs there for John Tusting, and he does hold on to the lead in class over Guy Edwards. He's got 2 and a bit seconds over Guy, but that might have been a slowdown penalty for him there, I imagine.
Why weren't able to serve it tactically, maybe as well on the exit when there was all of that confusion and slow pace for both of them. Thankfully for Toby Johns, though, I think that accident came at a time where he's due to come to the pits anyway, so it wasn't too bad. It was just more about nursing the car home more than anything else. Obviously, with the fast repair, hopefully he had the fast repair ticked before coming into the pits, but it doesn't look like he did because he's still stationary in the pit box.
Yeah, he's been there for a minute and a half. He did jump back to the pits as well, so it might just be towing back, to be fair to him.
That's what it is.
Then it may pop in, but we'll wait and see. Fausto Pinto coming into the pit lane for Scalant Pro driving. He's another one that's soloing this race. It's great to see that we can have that mix of these events now, though, where you can have drivers soloing them and have drivers teaming up as well. It means that also it opens it up in terms of the entries, because it means that not everybody in the field has to go and find a teammate, and what would be a big entry list of, say, 48 drivers doesn't get put completely in half to just 2. Like, you know, sorry, I'm going to say that again. What could be a big list of 48 drivers doesn't get cut in 2 to 24 drivers, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll say this as well, actually, as we were just watching Taylor Adams go through. John Barnes, I mean, for all we were saying about Taylor Adams and the pace that he has, he's just maybe a bit quicker than John. John was actually quicker on that last lap. I think through this first sector, Taylor Adams really has it nailed down. Gap sort of emerges from about 3 seconds to 4 seconds. But then over the course of the rest of the lap, maybe it's down to slightly lower downforce setup potentially for John Barnes, where he's a bit more of a grunt, say, down the straights, and close up to Regenta. But still, he's no slouch, you know. There's no sense writing off John Barnes just yet in this race. It's still a long old way to go as we approach the final hour of running here at the Circuit de La Sarthe.
Absolutely. You are watching the Sim Racing Magazine event Cours au Monde, sponsored by Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Orris Digital here on Chaz Draycott Media. Thanks also to Sim Racing Magazine, the wonderful Andy Marston, for everything he does to make this a reality, and of course to collaborate with myself and put these events on. And thank you as well to you, Ed, for jumping in with the co-commentary and having a good old time of it as well. Just to highlight that we have got confirmation from Andy that Heinz Mayer of Orris Digital, Andrew Fletcher of Derbyshire Holiday Homes are the sponsors of the event, with Orris Digital providing certificates, medals and even chocolates for first, second and third places in each class. There's also an award for safest driver and move of the race as well, which will be all voted for and sort of selected by Heinz himself. The drivers will have to submit their moves and he will pick move of the race. So plenty of prizes to be won here in the Sim Racing Magazine events Cours au Monde. What Ed and I will be doing in a moment's time, everybody, is just taking a quick break here, just for a few minutes before we get into the final hour of this race. I don't think we should do that just now, though, Ed, because we've got a battle for the LMP2 lead, spicing up more and more as Guy Edwards chases down John Tusting, Boosted Motorsport Blue, leading the LMP2s for now.
Yeah, definitely. It's still on the cards, this move, so we'll stay with it for a little while longer as Guy Edwards with a nice exit out of the first of the two Nissan chicanes. The SimSport 2 car slowly but surely reeling in the Boosted Motorsport Blue machine. John Tusting has been doing a pretty good job up until now to stay out ahead. But let's not forget, this battle for what is currently first place is likely to switch over to second once they make their next pit stops. Mike Murphy in the Renfort Remnants car is sort of net P1, I suppose, when all of the pit stops have been taken into account, as Philip Hopley comes into the pits.
Wondering whether they're going to change.
Hand over to son Andy, or is Andrew?
No.
Let Phil take the next in, it appears. Phil's going to be driving the car for the next sort of 25 minutes or so. Taylor Adams, they're getting the better of the traffic, and that's going to be a real big comfort to him, because John Barnes, a couple of seconds back, is going to start to encounter a little bit of strife and a little bit of difficulty in getting past those back markers. I'll tell you what though, John Barnes, with his personal best lap, closing in on Taylor Adams. Look at this, all the way around the outside to then get the inside, nicely well positioned. And now we'll have, that's Jacob Money just up ahead. Want to get him on the exit of Tete Rouge, which he does. Ooh, a little bit of indecision there, but slight miscommunication, but not the end of the world. Jump on doesn't lift off, doesn't lose too much time. Again, Taylor Adams extends his gap through the first sector. And over the course of the lap, John Barnes just reels him in. It's all about the difference in car setups and where you'll be quicker and where you'll start to struggle.
Unfortunately, Toby Johns has had another incident and jumped back to the pits again, I'm afraid, so I don't think his race will continue much further. We ride on board here with Guy Edwards in the RD SimSport 2 Delara P217 LMP2 car. In position 2, funnily enough, car number 25 as well, so I like the number 2, because Guy has certainly got all of those in the pocket. But he is chasing down John Tusting for this class lead in LMP2. may seem slightly badly timed, but Ed and I are just going to take a quick break, everybody, for a few minutes. We'll stick on board with Guy Edwards and see how this goes, but we'll be back with you in a few minutes here on Chaz Draycott Media in the Sim Racing Magazine Events Core Oman, sponsored by Orris Digital and Derbyshire Holiday Homes. We'll see you in a sec. Hello again, everybody. Chaz Draycott and Ed May here on Chaz Draycott Media for the Sim Racing Magazine Events Core Oman here from the Circuit de La Sarthe, sponsored by Orris Digital and Derbyshire Holiday Homes. We've got fantastic classes of LMDh cars, LMP2 cars and GTE cars out on circuit at the moment. We had 24 entries for this evening, and as of those 24 entries, we still have 22 of them running, one in the pit lane in the form of Toby Johns. Ed, it's been a great race so far. Still some spicy moments, as we see here for overall race leaders Regenta Sim Racing, and we have got a lot to keep us busy, haven't we, with plenty of these classes all swapping around with different strategies and all sorts.
Yeah, these folks like to keep us on our toes, like to keep us entertained and busy. They wouldn't give us a quiet evening in, would they? They wouldn't dream of it. It's been action all the way from the green flag up until now as we approach the final 52 minutes of racing here at the Circuit de La Sarthe. And honestly, I couldn't imagine what we're about to see, but I'll know it'll be very entertaining. Certainly. So, as we have some great storylines, nonetheless, the domination in both GTE and LMP2 for the class leaders that we both see on circuit right now, perfectly framed for us. Niels Core being overtaken by the wonderful Mike Murphy, who's carried on brilliantly for Renvort Remnants, now leads that class by just about 8-9 seconds or so. Whereas in the GTE category, Niels Core, he's leading by about 35 seconds. Ridiculous gap that he's been able to build on to Tim Perry and Altitude Esports. Tim Perry himself actually isn't having a bad race either. He's, 30 seconds clear of Mike Horder.
Yeah.
So he's in a lonely little bubble at the moment, unfortunately for him. But he wouldn't mind a nice quiet finish to the evening after all the dramas that he was subjected to in the opening 15 minutes.
No, absolutely. Tim Perry was right in the thick of it from the get-go. The GTE battle was the hottest on circuit from the start, and he's been doing a great job in this Corvette. Look at the way he just swings it into the corners as well. You've really got to wrangle this car. It's got that strange sort of mid-engined pendulum effect to it where you can really overdo it. Because all the weight is over the rear end, you have to be so careful with just over-rotating a car like this. We've got 51 minutes left on the clock, well into the second half of the race now, and it's Regenta Sim Racing leading the way from Boosted Only John, single-handedly. John Barnes running this race. Niles Teasters is next up for RD Sim Sport in the class, currently third. That's 3 Cadillacs in the top 3, and then it is Renvort Remnants leading in LMP2, Mike Murphy and of course Ben Chalcraft. John Tusting single-handedly driving this one as well as Boosted Motorsport Blue. Guy Edwards racing for RD Sim Sport 2 in third position at the moment as well. I think Guy Edwards might be racing this one on his own, is he not? I'm just trying to find... No, he's sharing Christopher Smith, of course. Apologies, Chris. RD Sim Sport 2. Niles Core, he is running this race single-handedly. He's racing for Chicane Online Racing. He's been a star in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge as well, in a big beefy BMW there too. And he now continues this one. Tim Perry also single-handedly for Altitude Esports, and Mike Horder for Boosted Motorsport Pink single-handedly in the Ford as well. So all the GTE podium at the moment, drivers that are racing individually, aren't they, Ed?
They are, and we can see into the pits, Taylor Adams, John Barnes, first and second in LMDh. Race leaders carrying their way into the pits. Little flash of the headlights there, as I think John Barnes knows that he's on camera. It's difficult to see a pit box when you're having to go through a ghosted car, so he's a little bit slow to stop. That's just going to help Taylor Adams out that little bit more. Meanwhile, out in front, Niels Teasters carries on, but of course we expect him to make one extra pit stop, so that should put him in behind. Although, come the end of the race, maybe he'll be in position to battle with them on track for the race victory, because he's been absolutely rapid in charging back up the field.
He absolutely has. One thing that I'm very intrigued by, obviously I've not broadcasted the GTP or LMDh categories before, so it's really intriguing me to see just how much the back end of these cars floats around. Watch Taylor Adams here as he comes out of this chicane. Looks like the back end's going to over-rotate loads, but it sort of floats around with it. It's almost like all of the weight of the car is over the front end, and it sort of swings the rear around like a tail, but it's not the way, because the engines are in the back of these things, and the front end is very, very light and very, very short. So It's just the way that the cars are set. They've got a lot of front end on them and quite skinny rears, haven't they, considering the engine is back there. Taylor Adams doing a great job, though, in this opening sector. Straight out the pits, out of the blocks, and back on with it up to full pace, while Niles Teasters retakes the lead of the race. Unfortunately, the GTE traffic is very spread out now. The smallest gap between two cars in GTE is actually Kim Such back to Heinz Meyer, who we see here, and it's 10 seconds. Everybody else in GTE is separated by more than 20 seconds. So I can't really believe that, to be honest with you, Ed, because at the beginning of the race, nobody could stay away from each other, could they?
No, they couldn't. They've all started to practice some social distancing. It's very, very separated.
Just got flashbacks.
I know, exactly. So, sorry, everybody, for that. But yeah, it's certainly nice and peaceful out there for a lot of the drivers, which is a far cry from what we saw in the first 30 minutes. Love the livery on Heinz Meyer, a nice black BM. It looks mean and properly aggressive with a nice little yellow trim. Not so sure about the bright yellow wheels on it, but I'm sure you've got something to say about it, Chaz.
No.
I know your opinion on painted wheels.
Not at all.
Oh, what if they were pink?
I'm not saying a word. It's Heinz Meyer. He can do what he wants. Sponsor of the event.
I suppose that's fair. It'll mean that everyone would have pink wheels if he wanted to.
Well, yeah, he can do whatever he
Tell you
wants.
what,
Like I say,
wouldn't go amiss on this car, though, would it? Nice little bit of pink to match the sort of tint on the black and pink RD Simsport livery that currently leads the race. Niels Teasters in the number 18. Expecting to see him into the pits at the end of either this lap or the next, I think it's fair to say. Look at the attitude of the car. It just seems to pitch in wonderfully. You were saying about how the rear end of the car, it looks like it's going to slide and then grips up. Not many other cars on the sim do that, and it's, I think, mainly down to the ground effect. There aren't a whole lot of cars on iRacing that utilise that sort of way of generating downforce. A lot of them tend to go for conventional airflow over the car to hunker them down, whereas you can see the huge gap in the front of the car that allows the air to sort of go through it and then hunker the car down, which allows it to sort of struggle a little bit at the slow speed, but then as soon as you power out of the corners, the rear end's about to step out, and then you get the ground effect to suck the car down onto the tarmac, and it sort of arrests that slide.
yeah, you can see as well the fins here on this wheel arch as well, the way they direct the air around the side, and you can see that channel underneath where all the suspension and the components are. It's almost like you've got two shelves sandwiched together, and it's just a big tunnel. The car is one massive tunnel, isn't it? It's like the fantastic ground effect aero car a long time ago, the Lotus, I think it was the 88 or the 89. And they basically had a chassis that was separate to the outer skirts of the car. It was like two pieces. So the chassis of the car in the middle stayed completely sort of buoyant and floated around, while the edges of the car were what sort of remained stiff. And it was just the way that the air was channeled between the two of them. It was a completely different kettle of fish altogether to anything that had come before it. It was remarkable. Taylor Adams and Regenta Sim Racing regain the lead of the race. John Barnes still running in second place for Boosted Only John. And usually, of course, those of you that know the Boosted guys, that would be Boosted Only Johns, because it's usually John Barnes, John Tusting and John Roberts that will run together in teams, and they have a very funny Only Johns logo, as you can imagine, all how it looks. Mike Murphy, though, and Renvort Remnants, I don't want to say that they're a surprise. I don't mean any disrespect by that, but I know the guys would have come into this, like I said before, expecting just a podium or just to enjoy themselves, just to get involved and have a laugh. You know, it's a different event to what they're used to running, but they've done an amazing job so far, leading the class pretty much all the way through. John Tusting is on fire at the moment, though, in second place. He was 0.4 of a second quicker on that previous lap, and the Boosted Motorsport Blue driver, single-handedly running this race, is really on a mission here in Car 98. Same too for Guy Edwards and Christopher Smith in RD Simsport 2. Those guys are really moving. So it's going to be close in the LMP2 category. We did worry slightly about it because it's the smallest category by a distance as well. But it's been probably one of the most entertaining with the biggest storyline, hasn't it?
It's been really entertaining, and to be fair, actually, John Tustin has got a real shift on, because for a moment I thought that RD Simsport 2 car and Guy Edwards, when he was behind the wheel, really harassing John for a good period of the race, I thought that the momentum was more with Guy in the RD Simsport 2 car, that they were going to try and take that position away from him a bit. All of a sudden, John Tustin, he's been revitalised. He's Mike Murphy up ahead, and he's potentially going to try and go for something very special here as into the pits, Remnant again. This is a very different strategy to everybody else. And is it going to work out for him? I'm not sure if it will. Boosted Motorsport Blue carries on going. Now, depending on how much fuel Boosted Motorsports Blue are able to save, if they get it to around about the, I want to say, another 13 minutes worth of run time, they might be able to make it on one more stint, whereas Renvort, they'll probably need an extra one after this.
Yeah.
Most certainly.
I think they will do. They've been going one lap earlier than everybody for quite a while now. They're taking tyres again as well. So not quite sure if this is part of the plan, whether they've got something up their sleeve here, but it's going to be hard to avoid having to have that extra pit stop at the end. We'll have to wait and see. Unfortunately, it seems like Toby John's race is done. He's in the pit lane there just behind these guys. Big shame to see that, unless he's used his fast repairs and now we'll just repair the car conventionally and just push on to the end. He's still around in the session, hence the fact that the car is still sat there in the pits. But Mike Murphy back out on track now. He is back into third position in the LMP2 class for now. Guy Edwards 44 seconds ahead. It's about a minute that you're in the pit lane, a minute and 10 seconds, give or take, with your pit stop. I've not caught up with Mark Baxter-Jones or any of the boosted LMDhs for a while, actually. Mark Baxter-Jones still running in fourth place after Johnny Elia had control of the car earlier on the 30th lap here at Le Mans. Ben Gregory still running as well. He had a few dramas in the opening stages as well. He had a great battle, actually, with Mark Baxter-Jones, didn't he, Ed? The two of them were throwing everything in the kitchen sink at one another, but they somehow managed to survive it. The only time they actually went off the circuit was through stuff that they did to themselves.
Pretty much, yeah. I think they had a slight tangle in the first corner at the first lap, but other than that, it was nice and clean, fair racing. Determined stuff as well, as you'd have to imagine needs to be in these LMDh class cars. With the amount of downforce, you need to be so assertive and take every inch of track space and say, this is my bit. Either basically relent or we'll have an incident. And I think a lot of the time the drivers at the speeds they're going do tend to relent more than anything else. Although later on in this race, if we are to see John Barnes and Taylor Adams get close, I'm not sure there'll be much relenting there, because that will be in the dying moments of the race for the lead. Same as well if Archie Coveney arrives on the scene. We'll have a look at him and how far is he off the lead of the race. Just about 28 seconds. He's got traffic at the moment, so that's going to halt his progress for a little bit. Going to have to be tentative all the way out of the first Mulsanne chicane. So that's not going to do him too much of a favour, but still, he's making progress.
Absolutely.
With a slightly later pit stop than everyone around him, we'll be able to take less fuel on board. So that might work in his favour as well.
Yeah, it could balance out very interestingly in the last moments of the race. And that's the thing. One of these races like this, it could be shaping up to a massive, dramatic finale. And we might not know it for ages yet. We might not know it until the last pit stops, because as commentators, trying to keep an eye on everything that's moving in a race like this and keep your eye on all the different elements with 40 minutes to go, it's almost impossible, especially, unfortunately, with sim racing as well, which, because of how easy it is to access the data, because at the end of the day, you just know if something is happening or not, because the sim will tell you, finding pit stops and strategies and so on is actually one of the hardest things to do in sim racing compared to real life when you'd see real-world motorsport. So, yeah, we have to wait and see in that regard, but it certainly keeps it intriguing and exciting, even when the race spreads out a little bit here for me and Ed, because we can speculate till the cows come home, us pair. It's one thing we're both very good at as a partnership, is speculating and contradicting each other's stories and making everybody second guess themselves. It's always good fun. Charlie Stout and In-Cam Racing are hoping to get the top three guys second guessing themselves as well, but unfortunately half a minute for those guys at the moment. These have been a little bit under the radar, to be honest, haven't they really, Ed? They've gained a place in class from where they started, and that's with Jacob Money, of course, dropping behind. But John Tusting has actually come from the back of the LMP2 class to lead it. He was actually the lowest qualifier in the LMP2s. He's gained 6 places in class. Mega stuff.
Shows how important qualifying is.
Yeah.
Means absolute diddly squat.
Yeah, stuff it. We're not doing qualifying next time.
Yeah. Random grids. We'll have the LMDh start at the back.
Oh, yeah. No, we'll just randomise all of it.
Lucky dip.
But no, he's gained 5 places in class so far, has John Tusting. Guy Edwards, Mike Murphy and Charlie Stout, all where they started actually. Jacob Money 4 places down from where he was, and Philip Hopley 1 place down from where he started with Waterside Gym Esports. In terms of the LMDhs, the only change has been Taylor Adams and Archie Coveney. Regenta Sim Racing and RD Sim Sports swapping over from 1st to 3rd. John Barnes has remained there. Biggest mover in the GTEs has actually been Fausto Pinto, who is one-man armying this race in the form of Scalant Pro Driving. He really gets on with this Porsche 991 RSR actually. He raced in the Porsche Club of Great Britain Sim Racing Series in this car and had a really good campaign there in the AM class. Peter Mackay and I were commentating on that, and we'll be commentating again together actually from the start of November. I'm delighted to be joining the Porsche Club of Great Britain Sim Racing Series again over on Race Spot TV. It'll be good fun to join Peter back in the box again. I'm sure you'll have had many an experience as well, Ed, with Peter's very dry humour. He's one of the funniest commentators there is, really, isn't he? Bless him.
He's a right laugh, and sometimes he doesn't even know that he's a right laugh.
No,
he says something,
try.
doesn't even know it's a joke, and then all of a sudden you're just in absolute tears, and he's just left a bit bemused. Although I will say, every time I've raced and Pete McCoy's been in the box, he tries to get me into the box to tell one of my jokes. He absolutely loves, for some reason, just me and my terrible humour. For some reason, it was because we. I'm not sure if you were around when we was at the height of lockdown. A lot of commentators, he basically dragged everyone into a Discord to do some like rallycross on Fridays. Right. And there was a thing that he did where if you take the Joker lap, you have to say a joke in the Discord call while you do it. Right. And if you didn't do a good one, you'd have to do a second Joker lap until you got it right. And I can't remember what I said now, but I said something, and he was in tears for the entire rest of the race. And I honestly cannot remember what it was.
Must have been good then.
There was something about drums, is all I can remember.
Oh my! We're going way off tangent here, but there's a friend of mine, Alex Burst, bless him, Scottish lad, very dry. Oh goodness me, very dry, very funny. He started posting this sound clip all over our Discord server a while ago with one of the greatest phrases I've ever heard. Everyone knows that the Scottish accent is just funny in general, no matter what. And there's a young man who shouts the phrase, "It's like a drum with knee sides, you cannae beat it." And it is one of my favourite phrases of all time. A drum with no sides, you can't beat it. It is just classic. Absolutely classic. Anyway, this is a classic at the moment, this race. 31 laps in the books, and Taylor Adams leads it for Regenta Sim Racing. This man, Niles Core, is on a mission for Chicane Online Racing. There's plenty of chicanes here at Le Mans for them to certainly earn their stripes and show us why they're called such a thing. But it is great fun. He's not been a chicane for anybody else, that's for sure. Maybe some of the LMP2s and LMDhs, but he's almost as quick as them, is Niles. Really flying. In terms of the time of day, we'll bring up my broken graphic. It's 4:15 in the sim at the moment, with half an hour left to go. It should be about 5:15 by the time we finish the race.
I'm having a look here, Chaz. There's nothing happening on circuit yet, but I'm looking at the lap times, and I was waiting to see what Mike Murphy's time would be, first sort of time around that wasn't affected by the pit stops. A 3:38. John Tusting was doing 3:37.2s. So that's around about 0.8 of a second. John Tusting, when he makes his pit stop, if he keeps his pace up, he could actually be in front of Mike Murphy. Looking at when we next expect John Tusting in, he's certainly going to be close to being ahead of Mike Murphy. And that is very interesting indeed. I mean, Guy Edwards, a full second a lap faster than Mike Murphy. So it's all closing in and set for a grandstand finish in LMP2 in the next sort of 20 to 30 minutes. You just have to wait a little while longer for the battle to fully materialise, but as it stands, LMP2 is certainly a class to watch, but so is the LMDhs, because the lap times coming through at the moment for Archie Coveney are bonkers.
Ben Gregory's had enough.
Yeah. Ooh,
sorry, Ed.
Oh, yeah, you're right. No.
Oh, he's already had damage. He's... Oh, dearie me. Yeah, something's gone very wrong there for Ben Gregory. I'm not quite sure exactly where this has happened, but can't see any previous damage or anything. It doesn't even say that he's
Is
gone
this-
off. It doesn't say he's gone
Can
off.
we go to the start of this lap? Because I've got a feeling it might be on the run towards Tetra Rouge. I know it's a difficult corner for these cars.
The only thing we can do is go like 2 minutes back to this. Oh, fantastic timing.
There
Ouch.
it is.
Goodness me, that is a big hit for Ben Gregory. And, well, it seems like the rest of the lap did not go well for him at all, because John Roberts has gone past him as Ben has gone straight on at the Porsche curves. Look, the car just doesn't want to turn at all. And he's managed to just get it back to the pits. It's been a trying race for Ben Gregory. He's been on the move and certainly pushing hard. Ben has got a win it or bin it attitude a lot of the time in the sim. He's a very exciting racer to watch, and he's shown that once again here, but unfortunately he's just overstepped the mark slightly there and the car has bitten back. It's easy for that to happen though, isn't it, in these machines? They really are on the limit.
Speaking of on the limit, can we maybe have a look on board with Taylor Adams just to see how hard he pushes through these corners? You can just see the car, the way it responds. And look close on the right hand side, all the furniture just whizzes on by. You look at it and it's gone the next second. The amount of pace that these cars have, mind-boggling. And now through these final chicanes, just chuck it into the corners and it sticks. It goes along, getting onto the brakes to open up the corner, over the curbs as well. It's nothing to this car.
No, absolutely not, is it? Just absorbs all of it. It just soaks up the corners, soaks up the speed. It's just amazing. Really, really is amazing. I know there was a lot of doubt casted over the sort of hypercar category when it came around and what was going to be developed and whether it would succeed, but the cars are just as exciting as LMP cars have ever been. I mean, surely it's not the LMP 900 category of way back when with your Audi R8s, your R10s, you know, even going towards your LMP 1s, your Peugeot 908s, the R18s, R15s, incredible Toyotas that we've seen over the last few years. But yeah, this category has certainly opened up to some very exciting cars. You've got the Ferraris as well, the Acuras, the BMWs, the Porsches. There's a number of them that we don't yet have here on iRacing. Obviously, the ones we do have are based on the IMSA category, because iRacing has a very strong affiliation with IMSA, and we're very grateful for it because we get some awesome cars on the service, and iRacing's really upped its game in the last few years, and even with European motorsport as well, they continue to improve. So, we've certainly got an interesting half an hour coming our way, especially when it comes to the prototypes in LMP2 here, because this is the third place car, Renvort Remnants, Mike Murphy, teammate Ben Chalcraft, sharing this LMP2 car in this race with Guy Edwards and Christopher Smith for RD SimSport 2 ahead of them, and John Tusting single-handedly racing this one. There's going to be some potential big changes, I think.
Also, Chaz, going back to what you were saying earlier about some of the classic cars that have been racing at the top level of motorsport around here at Le Mans, I've got to say you missed out one of my favourites, which was the Bentley Speed 8. I mean, that car is a thing of beauty.
God, yeah.
And, I mean, I'm a little bit biased because it was built and developed here in my home county of Norfolk using the Snetterton circuit, which is actually why they call it the Bentley Straight.
I did not know that.
Towards the Brundle and Nelson complex under the bridge.
I can see the Bentley factory out of my window here in Crewe in Cheshire. Yeah, I could throw a stone at it, but it'll cost me more money than I dare to imagine.
Yeah, maybe not.
We've got Mike Horder on our screens, who's just had a moment out of the first chicane there. He's ahead of Tim Perry by 7 seconds at the moment. But the difference there is Tim Perry pitted on lap 29. This is now his 30th lap. And Mike Horder pitted on lap 20. So there's a discrepancy there in the pit stops at least. So that's still yet to change. I'm just intrigued by this LMP2 fight. I hope for the sake of Renvort Remnants that there's something they can change here to this strategy, or something they can do to eke out a bit more time. But I think they are going to have to do an extra stop compared to these guys around them. Last time they pitted was lap 27. Guy Edwards and John Tusting, both cars ahead of them, pitted on lap 24. So they're now only 3 laps shorter than them, and it's going to be one more stop, which means I think 1 lap after the next stops of Tusting and Edwards and those guys, these guys may be pitting again, and that will put them behind until the end of the race. So I'm not sure if this is going to work out or not. We'll have to see. You never know, though, do you? You never know.
You can't exactly predict what's going to happen, but you can have a good idea. And I think Rendezvous Remnants, after the good pace they showed earlier, are just going to fall foul of strategy more than anything else. And I mean, full credit to John Tustin and Guy Edwards. They've been pushing incredibly hard, keeping the lap times as low as they can, while also fuel, which is certainly no small feat, to say the least. You can just hear the growl of the Cadillac going by. That's Archie Coveney, who's really getting a shift on, it's fair to say, closing up to the LMDh class lead. It's now under 10 seconds from John Barnes, who's currently in second place. That gap's coming down mighty fast, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to catch up with Taylor Adams, but the rate he's going, can't really write him off.
No, absolutely not. And it's getting a bit closer in the GTE field as well, actually. Sure, there's still a bunch of seconds between some of them, but Fausto Pinto's now only 6 seconds ahead of this man, Drew Fletcher. He's 8 seconds ahead of Kim Such, and then Heinz Mayer's only another 7 seconds back. It's much closer than it was before, where most of the cars were separated by 20 seconds apiece. So there's been some definite accordion effect there in the GTEs. It's always nice to see that Porsche. It's such a beefy, bulbous car, isn't it? The 991 RSR. With its very famously loud exhaust, the 991.2 rendition that they took to Le Mans with the shortened rear exhaust. It's almost like the exhaust comes straight out of the engine and is only about barely even a foot long exhaust, because it just points straight out the engine and it makes an absolute scream. There's amazing videos of it online. If you look for something like Porsche 911 RSR new exhaust or something, you'll see them. Jacob Money's just on a purple lap in LMP2. Now, it is going to get cooler here, isn't it, Ed? Because as you can visually see, as opposed to audibly seeing, is the sun going down here at Le Mans. It's going to start getting darker and darker now, a little bit more golden into this last half hour of the race, which, of course, in sim time will be an hour, as we have that 2 times time progression turned on.
There we go. Yeah, it's going to be starting to shift a little bit for the drivers. It's good to see Jacob Money. He's carrying on, and good to see him up the order now into 4th place. I think the podium's just a little bit too far from him. I keep looking at Archie Coveney, though, and that pace he's putting in, it's something else, and John Barnes. I think when Archie gets up to there, John just doesn't need, there's no sense fighting. See if you can pick him behind him, and maybe, if the slipstream works in his favour enough, stick with him and maybe battle with Taylor for the race victory. It'll be in the dying moments of the race, if it is to come through regardless. But just looking at Archie's pace, is something else, really, really good. It's a shame, of course, that Nils had that hardware failure, because he was a quick peddler as well. When he was behind the wheel, it was just that one moment outside of their control that's defined their race, rather than the sheer amount of speed that they're putting up to make up for it.
Absolutely. There's plenty of balancing to do in endurance racing, isn't there, between the strategy, between the pace themselves of the drivers. We've got 25 minutes left of the race, and John Tosting and Guy Edwards are both on their way down the pit lane, and there's unfortunately a bit of a barbecue going on down there where Toby John's car is concerned. So it seems like he will, or is that from his car? I'm not sure actually whether that's just tyre smoke from somebody leaving the pits a little bit earlier. Still, Mike Murphy is closing in on the pit lane and the end of the circuit. I'm not sure that car's going to make it to the end without another pit stop, I think they will have to do another. But let's see what they've got in the bag, shall we? They've certainly done a great job either way at the moment. You can see they've got the Minardi SimSport branding over the rear wing of their car as well, which is lovely. Nico and Kenjo and some of the other guys have been in the YouTube chat throughout the course of the race. Niall Crowther even took the mick out of me getting the emoji wrong earlier on in the chat. Thank you, Niall. I had a hilarious night on Rocket League with Niall last night as I decided to take my head out of the sand and stop working for a little bit. But Mike Murphy and Ben Chalcraft have been really impressive so far. There's been some great drives by a number of our competitors tonight, but Niall's core, well, there's been a great job by Regenta Sim Racing and the LMDh drivers at the front. I think for me at the moment, we're not officially doing a sort of driver of the race really, Ed, but I think Niall's core has just been so untouchable throughout this race that it's hard to look at anyone else, isn't it?
You do say untouchable, but we've just seen Tim Perry's been in and out of the pits. So has Nils Scott. They've only done 3 stops. But Tim Perry has closed that gap down. It was, 30 seconds or something, 36 seconds we said at one stage. It's now down to 14. I think there's been a bit of a difference in pit strategy, potentially.
Yeah, Niles' last pit stop was 50 seconds.
Tim Perry, if he can get a bit of a shift on, get that pace down, not going to be a foregone conclusion, but looking at the lap times that Nils Scott has been putting out, I would be very surprised, even if with fresh tyres, that he gets caught by Tim Perry.
Yeah, absolutely. He is on a mission right now, is Tim. He's making the Corvette look very good indeed. Rob Jackson is in 3rd place for RD Simsport 3. Rob has been sharing the car throughout the race with Peter Sikdar, the Ukrainian driver. Mike Horder in the Ford GT, or Mike Forder as we were calling him in practice, is unfortunately falling out of the top 3 positions. Jacob Money is back in the pit lane at this moment in time. So too is John Roberts. John has ironically flown under the radar with the camouflaged machine, which is blue, but is Boosted Motorsport green as the team. Jacob Money back out onto the circuit. So too is Kim Such in the Orris Racing green car. And right now, Kim and Ryan Penny have been putting in a great effort in the Ferrari. Car number 99. Ralph Mayer goes past Stephen Kershaw and Russell Clark, who is taking back over the Rusty's Roasts racing machine for the final stint, I believe. Stephen Kershaw jumping in the Series 1 racing car as well. So some final changes there. And Mike Murphy is now back in front in the LMP2 category, but he's 7 seconds. You might see John Tusting, there he is in the background, just coming up behind.
John Tusting needs to just focus on his own race. I think Chaz at this moment in time, no sense worrying about Mike Murphy, what the strategy's doing there. Just focus on himself and bring it till the end. Don't need to worry if Mike's going to come into the pits or not, even though he almost certainly will do. Don't worry about if John needs to come into the pits, which it's a question mark if he will or not. It's just all about hitting those laps and driving as best he can do, while also navigating the traffic, which is bound to still be a factor in these closing stages with 20 minutes to go. It's looking good for John, but you can't get carried away, not yet.
No, absolutely. You have to keep your head in the game for every single lap of a race like this. And it's Regenta Sim Racing that is leading us out right here at the Sim Racing Magazine events Core Oman here on Chaz Draycott Media, sponsored by Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Orris Digital as well. Thank you very much to those guys for their fantastic support as well. Don't forget, Orris Digital will be offering up prizes as well. There's going to be certificates, medals and even chocolates to first place, second place and third place in class. There's a Safest Driver Award and a Move of the Race Award as well. In terms of the LMDhs, it's RD Simsport in second place, then Boosted Only John in third. 11/10 Racing Team currently in the pit lane as Mark Baxter-Jones brings the car in with those evil-looking red front lights as it hits on the pit limiter. John Roberts next up for Boosted Motorsport Green in fifth place in LMDh, and then Ben Gregory in the recently repaired Boosted Simsport Acura. In the LMP2s, it's Renvort Remnants leading the way, 7 and a bit seconds ahead of Boosted Motorsport Blue at this moment in time. Then we have RD Simsport 2 in the form of Guy Edwards at this moment in third position. Then it's the in-cam racing duo of Charlie and Paul Stout. Sapphire Simsport Money, Jacob Money single-handedly running this race, qualified on pole position, but unfortunately his iRacing crashed as the session changed over. So he's been on a constant recovery since then. And then it is Waterside Gym Esports, the father and son team of Andy Hopley and Philip Hopley. Chicane Online Racing's Niles Core has been untouchable at the front of the GTE field. He's absolutely flying. Altitude Esports have Tim Perry in second place at the moment in GTE, with RD Simsport 3 next up completing the podium. Then it's Boosted Motorsport Pink in fourth place, ahead of RD Simsport 4, who round out the top 5. Behind them we then have Scallant Pro Driving Fausto Pinto, 6th place in class, 3 places gained for him, and for the Orris Racing Green duo, Kim Such and Ryan Penny, currently ahead of Ralph and Heinz Mayer in Orris Racing Yellow in their M8 GTE. Then it's Series 1 Racing in 9th in GTE, and then rounding out the top 10 GTE cars is Rusty's Roast Racing. And unfortunately out of the race now is Toby Johns for TAJ Racing and Lee Berridge in the Boosted Motorsport Acura. So Ed, 18 and a half minutes left. Still plenty to change. Still some pit stops still to go, I imagine. It's not over yet. It's definitely not over yet. I think that's going to be the theme of the next 15 minutes. It's not over yet.
It's not, and well, it might be over for the pit crew of Taylor Adams, as they will have to do just one more before the end of the race. Make sure it's a good one. Don't miss the box. Get it nailed down, and then just focus on bringing it until the close of the race. No sense worrying about Archie Coveney, even though he is certainly a lot closer than we would have expected after the issues we saw him face at the beginning of Niels' first stint. That little screen freeze through a terrible area of the circuit to have it as well, wasn't it? The run towards Corvette Curve. I think it was through karting, wasn't it? That horrible right-hander. You've got to suddenly get it pitched over to the left. It's just suddenly died on him, and there was nothing he could do. But now, Archie's been entrusted with the recovery drive. Certainly done very well to get up into the podium places. And just the way he's attacking every single corner, he's really on a mission.
He's flying, isn't he? Absolutely flying. And look, into the pits comes Mike Murphy for Renvort Remnants. And after seeing a recent pit stop by John Tusting, I think that's going to cement that John Tusting may lead this race, and that will be the strategy, is that John will continue on and Renvort Remnants have to do another stop. Guy Edwards is on his way past as well for RD Simsport 2. Let's see how short the pit stop is for Mike Murphy. Is he going to take tyres? He is. He may as well take fresh rubber at this point. Paul Stout is still nearly 2 minutes back on him at this moment in time, so he's all right for third place by the look of it. It's a big shame that the strategy and the pit stops have been a kick in the teeth for Mike Murphy and Ben Chalcraft. They've done such a great job at leading the class so much of this race. But John Tusting continues on, and he now leads for Boosted Motorsport Blue, one of the guys that is single-handedly racing in this race, Ed. It's great to see that there's not really been an advantage or a disadvantage to running the car on your own. I quite like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you expect by now the fatigue might be getting to John, but if anything, the longer this race has progressed, the better he's gotten. It's an aging like a fine wine for John at this moment in time, where he's just been getting better as the race has aged on. No mistakes whatsoever. Hopefully I haven't cursed him with that. I'm touching the wood on my desk just to make certain. But now, it's just him and the track and the fuel in the car. If he's able to save it until the end without making an extra pit stop, this race is his. And it's bitterly disappointing for Renvort Remnants because they were doing such a good job. It's just their inexperience in endurance racing.
Yeah.
And that's what's been there and doing, unfortunately. But it's good to see them out there anyway. And they came here essentially for a good muck about, really. It was just a bit of fun, and it's hopefully been enjoyable for them, even if they haven't necessarily been able to get the top step sealed just yet.
I'll tell you what, though, I mean, the consistency's been phenomenal from them as well. You know, it's not like they've been all over the place and making mistakes and having accidents everywhere. Both Mike Murphy and Ben Chalcraft have been really, really impressive here with that solid consistency. And I think, to be honest, Tim Perry's gone as an unsung hero of the race. He's been doing a wonderful job. I know we were talking about his pace earlier, but he's still outclassed the rest of the GTEs. Only Niles Core has been able to better him as this race has gone on. He's still a lot quicker than the drivers around him. And this Corvette has certainly been working for him here at Circuit de La Sarthe. And we love to see it for Tim. And Altitude Esports, a team that has won a lot of trophies and a lot of championships since their inception. And I know that my good mate Mark Fletcher will be really pleased with Tim's performance this evening, so will the rest of the squad.
Oh, here we go, Chaz. Important for LMDh, you've just got it as well. RD Simsport into the pits from the lead of the race. Now, they were behind Regenta Sim Racing, who've made their last stop, but with Archie Coveney coming in a lap later, or 2 laps later, I think it was a lap later actually, isn't it? They will be able to take a little bit less fuel on board, close that gap down, and with the pace that Archie's already been putting in, very impressive, I think this could be closer than we expect. Obviously, Taylor Adams is going to go by, but I think fairly shortly, Archie's going to get up and rolling.
He's going.
He's already on pit exit. That gap now, what is that going to be, 10 seconds?
More than
for
that,
the next
I think.
30 minutes of racing. 9.0. Hang about here. Could be game on. If Archie Coveney can continue that same level of pace that he's been bringing forward much of the evening.
Oh no. Oh
dear, it's Russell Clark. That is as Mike Horder's off the road as well. We saw Archie Coveney right behind him, I think.
Yeah, I think there was 2 separate incidents, of course. This is what happens to Russell. Oh, the car's gone around on him, and then that's really unfortunate the way it digs into the barrier like that. And hello.
Spring loaded.
Yeah.
It's got a Shremek that's not quite worked out for it.
This is Archie Coveney. Oh, he tries to dig underneath.
Tiny little tag as well.
A little bit of impatience.
There is contact. It doesn't look like the cars make contact. It could just be a case of netcode, but...
Maybe just a little bit of impatience, though, from Archie Coveney. He knows what the job is that he has to do right now, and I think maybe he was just trying to
every
push
second
to get...
counts for him, to be fair.
Yeah, he was trying to get that millimetre perfect cutback, wasn't he? Hopefully, for their sake, it hasn't damaged the car as well, and I really hope for Mike Horder it hasn't damaged the car either. He's got a decent gap over Rob Jackson of 24 seconds. So...
Doesn't look like the car's crabbing.
No. Oh.
Oh.
Well, there's a sign that things might not all be perfect underneath that Ford GT. I think the left-hand side has taken a beating. Let's go on the roll bar. Steering seems straight.
Looks alright. I think it was just more Mike Horder was trying to back out to allow one of the boosted cars by in LMDh and just sort of slightly misjudged it. More than anything else there. I'm not sure if that was a symptom of the earlier incident coming up towards Tete Rouge. I think that was just maybe a little bit of miscommunication more than anything else. The car seems fine coming through Mulsanne corner.
I think it's that front left. The front left's definitely the bit that's taken the whack because you can see it's a bit pushed in compared to the rear arch. The Ford GT is usually a little bit wider on the back than it is on the front, but
I tend to look at the wing mirrors on the Porsche, not the Porsche, the Ford, if it's got a sort of bit of damage, especially with a lot of them. It doesn't seem to have any sort of deformation or one wing mirror higher than the other. So it looks like it could be alright, but I
think genuinely when you look at the front of it, I think you can see that you can see the rear arch on the right hand side of the car and not on the left when it comes towards us.
I think it's because we've got the cameras for us. Well, the cameras are on the left hand side of the circuit, so they look at the
true. No, there.
A bit more. Oh, there. Oh, no, you are right. Yeah, it is kicked out. There you go. That's a much better sign of it.
Yeah, that front left is. There's not words. There's not broadcastable words. I hope for Mike, though, that isn't a meatball flag. Basically, a black and orange flag, meaning that you have to come in and get damage repaired because it is considered unsafe to continue with it. Because Mike's done a great job in this Ford to be up there in third place. He's ahead of Rob Jackson now after the pit stops have sorted themselves out. Jackson pitting 2 laps later than Mike. We'll have to just stick with him and just see whether he is going to come into the pits because this will lose him third place in the GTE fight if he has to pit now. If he can carry on, then he'll be absolutely fine, but let's see. Yeah, he is coming in. Oh, that's absolutely devastating stuff for Mike Horder. One-man band has been doing epic stuff. We'll have to see how quickly he can get through the pits, but it's going to take some time to get through there. Here is Rob Jackson now making his way out of the Porsche curves, and well, he's going to be a happy bunny to see it, but you'd never wish it on your competitors, and with the community we've got here, we know that wouldn't be the case anyway, would it, Ed?
It wouldn't, which is a big shame. Of course, we don't have any stewards or anything. It's all just for a bit of fun. Hopefully, it's not going to leave too sour of a taste in Mike Horder's mouth after the hard work that he put in earlier on. I mean, he still might be in with a shot. He was stopped for barely a second. We've all come out in behind Rob Jackson, but Mike's still got a bit of pace about him and could close it down.
James Holman's actually a threat as well.
He's going to be someone to watch as well. We know how quick James is. You don't really need to butter him up anymore. If you've watched the SRM GT4 challenge, you know just what a quick peddler he is. As well, if you've actually seen him race legends in real life, you've got bucketfuls of talent at his disposal. And the race is beginning to take shape and come alive in the final 8 minutes of the SRM Court or more. And what an evening's racing it has been, Chaz. So many storylines, and now we're starting to find a few more that will come through just before the end.
Absolutely. Just to remind you all, it's Regenta Sim Racing leading the way in LMDh. RD Sim Sport in second position, 8 seconds back. And it's John Tusting leading in LMP2 with RD Sim Sport in second place there. Chicane Online Racing leading in GTE. And then Altitude Esports just behind. But this is the closest battle on track at the moment. The GTE cars between James Holman and Mike Horder. Right together now as they go on to the second part of the Mulsanne Straight, just out of the first chicane. And this is an epic race so far. It's been great entertainment. We thank you all for watching as well. It's not over yet. Still 8 minutes of this race left to go. And then, of course, we have interviews and all sorts to round out the broadcast. We'll speak to the teams and speak to some of our winners and let you know just how they're feeling and what it means to them to get the results. Taylor Adams and Regenta Sim Racing, well, to be honest, Ed, I mean, maybe shouldn't disclose this, but I think before the broadcast we were saying they're definitely some of our favourites to take this one. I think we were a bit surprised when they fell back a couple of places and sort of sat away from the top few positions, but now back at the front and thriving at the hands of Taylor Adams. He's really on a mission.
He is, but so is Archie Coveney. That gap now 6.5 seconds as he makes his way out of the final corner. He's going to have a little bit of traffic to contend with through Dunlop chicane. But then a little bit of clear track to stretch his legs and charge down the race leader with. Oh, dearie me. Seems to get away with that just about. Now, though, we know that this first sector is very good for Taylor Adams and Regenta Sim Racing, so that gap will begin to build a bit. And then Archie Coveney will close right back. Oh, I'm not so sure if I can... Incredibly close as Mike Horder. He's lost out there. James Holman up into fourth place, and with that lockup, it's going to make it all the harder to take that place back.
Yeah, that's been a bit of a nail in the coffin there for Mike Horder, I'm afraid. The contact earlier on is actually what's really affected his race, which is a massive shame because I don't particularly think Archie Coveney did too much wrong. It was just he was trying to get that millimetre perfect cutback, and I think they got done in a little bit by netcode, did both of them. And yeah, the contact certainly with the wall didn't look that severe for James Holman. Sorry, for Mike Horder, I do apologise, James. And that has shaped his race in the dying moments. Jacob Money's had a good comeback though. He's up into fourth place here. He's a minute and 49 off the leaders, sure, but considering the fact that his iRacing crashed between qualifying and the race and he didn't get back in for the start, the fact that he's still stuck with it and pushed on and on and on throughout the whole event still is just great sportsmanship, and we thank Jacob for that because he's a real star. He's a great entertaining racing driver, and he's always been a part of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, and how quick he is there as well in our special events is always consistent. You know, he's always rapid, and it's always a pleasure to have him with us. So it's been good to see this great event so far in terms of his performance. He's now making his way back down to the Porsche curves.
Like you say, it's been great that he's been able to stick with it, because it'd be a dying shame to lose a driver of his quality and certainly the entertainment factor we get from watching Jacob Money. It'd be very disappointing to lose him at that early stage.
Good value for money.
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
Dad joke. Sorry, Jacob. No, you are a star, Jacob.
Penny.
We love you. Oh.
Here we are. This is certainly something to keep your eyes on, though. Archie Coveney and Taylor Adams is actually going to get some Mac marker traffic through the Porsche curves, or will it be sorted out? I think, is that Ralph Meyer that Taylor Adams get past just about? Just look at the speed that he takes every single corner. Every apex is inch perfect. There is actually the BMW M8 of Nils Kaur. Again, watch out, Nils. Archie's going to be blitzing on by through the four chicanes, over the curbs, just attacking. Cannot afford any slowdown or any mistake, because that will be his chance of race victory gone instantly. We're actually there. Now, Taylor Adams, he's come across the line at a time where...
Oh, he's going to have one more lap after this.
He's going to have one more lap, yeah. He's come across the line at a point where he's going to essentially extend the race distance by another 2 minutes. And those are 2 minutes that Archie Coveney can use to his advantage.
For God's sake, Taylor, this is the 2.4 hours of Le Mans, not 2.5. It's getting closer to... Well, I'm just going to disqualify him. But no, in all fairness, Regenta Sim Racing doing a great job at the front. Archie Coveney and RD Sim Sport, despite the massive setback earlier, the big incident through the Porsche curves, continuing to race on. Look at the conditions here as well, by the way, down the Mulsanne Straight. Looks gorgeous. All the humidity down there at the far end as the sun continues to set here in the French countryside. It's worked out quite nicely with the lighting, hasn't it, really, Ed? Because qualifying and practice earlier on, almost in morning-like conditions. And now the golden light has faded here at Le Mans, and it is looking super tasty in these moments towards the checkered flag.
Very tasty as Taylor Adams is going to catch some traffic at an inopportune moment in towards the second Mulsanne chicane. Well, Ben Gregory's got some traffic at a terrible time. Oh, and really mounted the anti-cuts there. Gravel slows him down enough so that it's not a 200-kilometre impact with the tyre barriers. Oh dear, that was just
didn't leave the room, unfortunately. Sure. The two of them just sort of wobbled around each other, didn't they?
They were both really to share some blame in that, I think. It was something that could have been done a bit better between the both of them. Maybe a little bit more patience from Ben, but also giving a little bit more room from Russell Clark there, I think it was.
I hope that car isn't crabbing either for Russell, because it seemed like it wasn't quite straight there. We'll see it as he comes away from us here. Yes, that is slightly broken, to say the least, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's a big, big shame. You never like to see it, and especially when it comes from such minor-looking contact as well. It didn't seem like it was a massive hit, but it's that wheel-to-wheel contact that can really knock the suspension out, ruin the steering, isn't it? That's the fundamentals of these cars, I'm afraid.
It really is. Taylor Adams, though, just needs to hang on for a little bit longer. John Tusting as well, actually, likewise. He's got not a whole lot remaining in his race. Just needs to guide it home as he comes into the second Mulsanne chicane. Doesn't need to push hard. He's got 8 seconds to guide with him behind. He can just focus on saving the fuel. And now, interestingly enough, this race is going to go essentially a full lap longer potentially than John Tusting was accounting for. Fastest lap of the LMP2 race is going the way of Jacob Money with a 1:34.7. Very tasty lap indeed, actually. A full second faster than anyone else's time.
Yeah. And
that was by Guy Edwards earlier on in this race with a 35.97. So very quick stuff from Jacob Money. And hang about, Archie Coveney, he's not got enough fuel in.
Unbelievable. That extra lap for Regenta Sim Racing has been a godsend. Absolute godsend. I was just about to talk about Archie Coveney because the fastest laps anyone else has done in LMDh are 3 minutes 26.6, 26.7,
could come through
24s,
and take a position
23s, here. And Coveney's done a 3:21.5. He's 2.5 seconds quicker than anyone else, but you're absolutely right, Ed. John Barnes will come through and will take second place. Mark Baxter-Jones will not come through and take third, though. They're too far back, unfortunately. Archie's going to take a splash and dash. Now, I'm wondering... I don't think the race is going to come to Renvort Remnants, though, unfortunately. It's not going to come to them because they only pitted 2 laps after the other LMP2 drivers, and they didn't take any less fuel than their rivals, so they would have had a full tank just to make sure they get it to the end. So John Tusting and Guy Edwards, with 8 seconds between the two of them, should still be safe in first and second, with Renvort Remnants behind them. There's a battle for third place going on, actually. Sort of civil war between RD Simsport here. James Holman, RD Simsport 4, and RD Simsport 3's Rob Jackson, battling now, teammates for the final podium spot, and a box of chockies. That's what's important here. That's what matters here. Chocolates. Oh no! James Holman doesn't like chocolate. It's confirmed. Rob Jackson will go through. Oh, James Holman, we've spent the whole race bigging you up, mate.
Oh, look at that. Mike Horner's taken the place back now. Mike Horner's place.
Cheers,
Dearie
sunshine.
me.
He says you don't like chocolate, mate. Have you got an intolerance? Thanks, in, and thanks very much. Oh, who would have thought it? Mike Horder comes flying through in the Ford. James Holman just lost it all on his own by the look of it. Oh, man, it's so tiny an error. Clips the curb, and that's that. That is just devastating. Absolutely devastating for him, isn't it?
Oh, my words. That is all of the hard work of 2.4 hours of driving between the pair of them, and it's just one little mistake. That's how this track gets you. You can be going at a comfortable rate, and then one little misstep, and bang, right away in the wall, race completely turned around in the closing stages. There's no real way to come back from it. Archie Coveney, though, for RD Supersport, I mean, look at the purple sectors that he's been putting in to try and chase down John Barnes. He's not going to be able to do it, unfortunately. I'll tell you what a race it was by Taylor Adams and Regenta Sim Racing. Just a few more corners to go. They maybe didn't qualify as well as they expected to, but it's not about where you qualify, it's about where you cross the line, and with just a few more corners to go, Chaz, well, take us through it to the flag.
They started third on the grid in the LMDh category, and the Cadillacs have reigned supreme here, but supreme amongst the Cadillacs has been Regenta Sim Racing. Taylor Adams and his teammate Matt Slight win the Sim Racing magazine events Core Oman here at Circuit de La Sarthe. A fantastic performance from start to finish by these guys, winning the category by nearly half a minute in the end. Awesome, awesome stuff by both of them. John Barnes is going to be next up to cross the line. He's the one-man band, as boosted only John in the Cadillac. He had a great start to the race. It's faded away a little bit in the middle, but he's going to take second position here, 2.5 seconds ahead of the fantastic RD Simsport. Archie Coveney and his teammate doing a mega job indeed, and they complete the podium here at Circuit de La Sarthe. And well, what else can we say though about this man? Niles Core has been an absolute machine through this race here, Ed, and Chicane Online Racing taking a very deserving win.
Precision German engineering, piloting some precision German engineering over the line. Wonderful job there by Niels Core. Perfect drive from start to finish, like you say, well measured indeed. And now we have Tim Perry in second place. From all of the dramas of the first 30 minutes or so, he came through that brilliantly, and the good pace kept him in good stead to finish in second place in the GTE category. Wonderful drive there by Tim. And now John Tusting. What a performance from the back end of the LMP2 field. Had to really get his elbows out, managed the race to perfection. The strategy, it was a bit of a gamble to save as much fuel as he did, but he made it work. And now over the line, boosted Motorsport Blue, John Tusting takes the victory in the Sim Racing Magazine course, or Court or more. And what an evening we've been treated to. Guy Edwards not too far behind either. He takes second place. Really, both of those two capitalising on Renvort Remnants in their slightly off-kilter strategy, but still, don't let that take away from the performance they showed. Newcomers to iRacing Endurance Racing, and they put on a great show, didn't they, Chaz?
Absolutely. Renvort Remnants doing a wonderful job there. They can be really proud of themselves with that one. That was a wonderful showing indeed. Unfortunately, the strategy didn't work out for them, but we had some very deserving podium finishes in all three categories there. Rob Jackson and his teammate, actually for RD Simsport 3, will complete the GTE podium. Peter Sikdar joining him in this car. We'll watch them make their way across the line and be our final podium finisher. Just trying to figure out, in terms of our podium finishes actually, how many of them were on their own for that one. Niles Teasters was teammates with Archie Coveney, so we've got at least one single-handed driver in each podium, 2 of them in GTE. There goes Rob Jackson across the line, and RD Simsport 3 take position 3, just ahead of Mike Horder, and then James Holman in the background there. Well, Great entertainment all night, I'd say, Ed. That really was a belter of a race and some fantastic action all the way through it.
That was pretty wonderful. Really, really good driving across the field. Nice cool heads. Didn't see anyone really sort of let the red mist descend, and it was all just good fun in the end, wasn't it? A good special event here on Chaz Draycott Media. Of course, Sim Racing Magazine. Wonderful stuff as well. And run these events, isn't it, Chaz? Especially for such a great community.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a pleasure. Always an absolute pleasure. We've got so many great people within the community that we work with and help out with these events. And Andy's an absolute star as well. It all goes on with Andy's blessing as well. Let's not forget, under the Sim Racing Magazine banner. And, of course, with our sponsors, Orris Racing... I said Orris Digital Racing there. Orris Digital and Derbyshire Holiday Homes as well. We are absolutely grateful for their support as always, and we believe they'll be supporting the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Winter Tour as well, which will be starting just next week, actually. It's going to be a real exciting winter with that championship going on. I'm just waiting for the results to be confirmed here in the sim. John Roberts saying he won the Acura class in the LMDhs. Congratulations, John. Well done on the result, mate. Hope you enjoyed yourself out there. I think we're actually still waiting for James Holman, aren't we? Because I think he pitted on that previous lap, so it doesn't actually count as him finishing the race, which is odd because Niles Corr is ahead of him on the circuit, so James Holman still has to complete the race, it seems. That's why the results haven't come through yet. No, they have come through now. It's just James Holman's... Well, he doesn't know how to drive slowly, does he, does James? There's no such thing as going slowly when you are James Holman. So let's have a look at the race results then. And we'll go through them as the overall results, shall we? I tell you what, let's go through it class by class. LMDh, Regenta Sim Racing take the win by just over half a minute from boosted only John Barnes on his own there with a great performance in second place. Just a few seconds back were RD Sim Sport in third. Then the 11 Tenths Racing team fly the flag for Porsche in fourth place ahead of the trio of boosted teams. It's Boosted Motorsport Green, Boosted Sim Sport, and then Boosted Motorsport, with unfortunately the SRM... Oh, okay, James. With the SRM Racing team not taking part in the race due to connection issues before it started. Ed, why don't you take it away with the LMP2, Sunshine?
Thank you very much, Chaz. And it was a wonderful strategy call by Boosted Motorsport Blue. John Tusting with a great drive from lights to flag, coming back from, well, 6th place in class up to take the victory. Certainly no small feat. Hats off to him. And of course to RD Sim Sport 2. That was a solo effort, I believe, by Guy Edwards. Put in a brilliant shift all the way through the race. Take second place. Renvort Remnants there. It was a tricky race, and then they led for most of the action, but sadly just faded away in the closing stages when the strategy just wasn't quite optimal enough. Jacob Money for Sapphire Simsport Money there in fourth place, recovering brilliantly after missing the start due to an iRacing crash. Gutting for Jacob, but great to see him stick with it and bring it through to the end for a good result. In Cam Racing, that was Paul Stout who ended up taking it over the line. It was the two Stouts, wasn't it, altogether? Charlie Stout as well behind the wheel of that one, taking it into fifth place. And then the two Hopleys as well, Andrew and Phil for Waterside Gym Esports, round out the LMP2 class. Now Chaz takes away with all of the action and results of GTE racing here at Circuit de La Sarthe.
Chicane Online Racing, Niles Corr taking the single-handed victory in GTE with an epic performance. 26 seconds clear of Tim Perry for Altitude Esports, another unsung hero of that race. He was great, wasn't he? RD Sim Sport 3 finished next up with Rob Jackson sharing the car with Peter Sikdar. Then it was Boosted Motorsport Pink. Mike Horder really unfortunate there with the damage towards the end of the race, which knocked him off the podium, you could say. RD Sim Sport 4 were next up in 5th place. A big moment for James Holman there at the end of the race. He'll be frustrated with that one. Scallant Pro Driving finishing in 6th, ahead of the two Orris Racing teams. Orris Racing Green finishing ahead of Orris Racing Yellow. Then it was Series 1 Racing, the event sponsor as well. Drew Fletcher involved in that one, just behind the other event sponsor, actually, Heinz Mayer in car 222. Then it was Rusty's Roast Racing, 2 laps down in 10th place. And unfortunately for Toby Johns, the incidents that he had quite near each other were the end of his race, but a great debut in endurance racing here on iRacing. So, Chaz is just going to try and find where the heck the start of the race was. We're going to get things back in slow-mo. It's going to take its time to skip backwards because it's a long old replay, this one. But you can see the sun was very much up in the sky earlier on today, Ed, and I tell you what, it was... seems like forever ago that we actually got the race started, but not because it was a bad thing. It was just such a long race.
It was, but it was great to watch every single moment of it. And I think we have a few drivers in the waiting room for a little chinwag. So who do you want to talk to first?
Well, I think first across the line and first into the commentary box, I think it's definitely right that we speak to Taylor Adams from Regenta Sim Racing. Taylor, congratulations, mate. You must be absolutely over the moon with that one because you guys did a mega job all the way through. Talk us through it.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was hard work. The RD Simsport guys were really fast. I think they got unlucky with an incident, and then the entirety of the race we were just watching the relative as they slowly closed him. But I think they short-filled slightly at the end, so we got a bit lucky. Well, not lucky, but we got a bit of respite on the last lap, which was nice.
I was going to say, what was the relief like in the last couple of moments there when you realised they had to pit again? Was that the sort of confirmation you needed, or were you still sort of a bit unsure based on what they could still do within a lap? Because it's a long lap here.
Yeah, I was more than just putting all the pressure on myself not to clatter over a curb too hard and end up facing the wrong way or something. But yeah, it was a good feeling when they pitted.
What was it like in the early stages of the race? Because while the field of LMDhs wasn't massive, they're very difficult cars to sort of adjust and avoid each other with, aren't they? Because you can't really fling them around as much as you'd like to be able to. Yeah,
the start I made a few silly mistakes, and fortunately I think something happened behind, so there was a bit of a gap, so no one collected me. But yeah, it just took I think the car, because it's so ungainly on cold tyres, it takes a while to get up to speed and get in the rhythm, but once you're in the rhythm it seems to be alright. But yeah, I just made a few too many mistakes at the start.
Well, you certainly recuperated well enough for it, Taylor, and it was a great victory. We were all really, really impressed here. What was going through the mind of your teammate as well? How was he during the race? Was he a nervous wreck, or was he all under control?
He was alright. He was just telling me to stop looking at the relative. Because I was just like, he's caught by another 10th or he's caught by another second this lap. So he just told me to just look forward. So fortunately, he kept me focused, which was good.
Well, it certainly paid off, Taylor. It was great fun to watch. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go this evening?
I guess mainly just my teammate Matt. He did a great job in his stint, and then keeping me focused for mine. And thank you very much to you all for hosting such a great event.
Absolutely our pleasure, Taylor. It's great to have you and your teammate here as well, and hopefully we'll see you again in another one soon. But well done, great victory, and we'll see you again sometime soon, mate.
Thank you very much. Yeah, for sure.
Wonderful stuff, Ed. Our race winner there, Taylor Adams from Regenta Sim Racing. They had it all under control. They knew what they were doing, and still great sportsmanship. They mentioned the fact that their competitors are so rapid, and that's the thing. Everyone can keep an eye on each other in a sim race, can't they? It's an amazing thing to be able to do.
Yeah, you don't really have that luxury if you're behind the wheel of a real car. You only get fed the information, the gaps from your race engineer, your crew chiefs, essentially, don't you? You don't have sort of windows that we get into the happenings on the race circuit. But it's still wonderful to hear, obviously, the respect for their rivals, their other competitors, as we have a lot of respect, both me and Chaz, for this man, Jacob Money, for sticking it out after a rough start to things. How was the race for you, mate?
Yeah, so that was definitely a tricky race. We were starting from almost a lap down. I was just pushing as hard as I could throughout the race. I was managing my pace, saw it was a bit quicker than everybody, so I was a bit happy about that. And then lap by lap, just closing the gap, and thankfully I was able to get a couple of spots towards the end of the race. Put myself up into 4th. Couldn't quite reach the top 3 though, they were just a little bit too far up the road.
How did the sort of change to the fuel as well affect how you would approach the race normally with the 75% limit?
Well, I didn't really look into it too much. So the race was sort of a wing it and see what happens. And I sort of saw in the first few laps that it was going to be quite tight on making it an extra lap or not making it an extra lap. So I decided to do a little bit of fuel saving as well, just to ensure that I can get the extra lap out of the car. And I think looking towards the end of the race, the guys that finished third didn't think about the fuel save, and by the time they did, it was too late.
Yeah, I think they were actually newcomers to racing in the sort of endurance style format, which is I think why they just sort of slightly missed that little trick that everyone else did. But from your point of view, how was it? Obviously, trying to come back from a disappointing start to the race.
Yeah, so I had a system failure come the start of the race. It kept me stuck in the technical inspection, so I couldn't grid. So I had to I tried closing iRacing, restarting, that wouldn't work, so I had to reset the PC very quickly. So I had to do a complete PC restart, and thankfully by the time I made it back in the session, I wasn't a lap down, so I was able to stay on the lead lap, and yeah, from there, push like hell, really.
I mean, push like hell you did. I mean, you got the fastest lap of the LMP2 class by, I think, was it a second, Chaz? Something silly like that. Jacob, you were really rapid, but are you going to be in and around for more SRM events? Maybe the Winter Series come around the corner?
Yeah, there's the next series of the GT4s I'm definitely going to be looking at doing. I don't know if it's been announced yet or not. But yeah, I'm definitely going to look to do that.
Chaz, isn't it in like a week's time or something? 2 weeks?
No, well, the Winter Series is, but the next full season hasn't been announced yet. I'm too lazy and stupid for that.
Yeah, well, I've got my name down for the Winter Series, so we'll see what I can do in that and see if I can compete for the full season this time.
Yeah, to reveal which car you're going to be choosing for the series. I know it's a little bit close in terms of the favoured car at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it might come as a bit of a surprise, and I'm hoping that my team can help me get a livery sorted in time. But I might be joining Niels in the big boy BMW.
Oh my word!
Now that's something I want to see. That's going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jacob, for that
we'll
little
see.
window.
But yeah.
No worries, buddy. It's been great to have you in the. It's great to have you out on circuit as well. It's been a shame that it hasn't gone quite to plan, but maybe the winter season will go a little bit more according, and you can maybe nail down what was causing that issue early. Because I can't say I've ever seen that before, but hopefully that's not going to be a problem in the future. But before we say goodbye to you, buddy, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out, podcast, mate?
Probably just the entire Sapphire Simsport team. They do excellent work. As you can see, the car looks absolutely amazing. They've worked really hard the past few months to make sure that we've got most cars in our livery, and we've also got 4 variations of every car as well. So you've got, where I've got the green stripe, you've got a purple, pink, green and red. So yeah, they've done a great job on making sure that the liveries are all done, all updated, everybody can drive and show off our fantastic team colour.
Lovely stuff, mate, and fantastic it certainly is. Well, you take care, mate, and we'll see you for the winter. We're looking forward to it.
See you next time.
Well, Jacob Money there giving us a fantastic insight into potential events in the future with him there, Ed. But what a great guy. I mean, he still stuck it out and cracked on. That's just sportsmanship in such a wholesome way, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of respect for Jacob there, because, I mean, I wouldn't have blamed him if he decided after missing the start just to pack it in and do something else with his evening, but he stuck with it, and it was great to watch. It really was.
Absolutely, and another driver and team that was great to watch was Archie Coveney and his teammate as well, Niles Teasters. Unfortunately, an incident for them in the early stages of the race really put pay to, what was definitely going to be a win, I think we'll all agree, with no disrespect to our eventual winners. But Archie joins us in the commentary box now. Archie, you must still be pretty pleased with how the race went in the end, considering it was an amazing show of pace. Talk us through the emotions in the camp right now.
Yeah, I'm a little gutted, I can't lie. We had good pace. Me and Niels both had solid pace, and we got a good start. But yeah, Niels got in the car, and I was just getting ready to sit back for a little bit, and then I see him just stack it in the wall. But it was no fault of his. It's just had an issue with his PC. But we tried our best to recover. I was just pushing flat out constantly, and we came up close. I took a bit of a gamble. It was about 10-20 seconds from not getting that final lap and going one short, and that's what I went for. and yeah, it saved about 3 seconds of fuel, so I had to try it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it cost me second in the end, but I'm glad I tried it at least.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, one of my favourite phrases is that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So, you know, if you would have seen it afterwards and it could have maybe paid off, then you'd still be kicking yourself, I guess, a little bit. So it was just great to see it, though, because that's the thing with this sort of racing, isn't it? It's not just all out-and-out pace and all solid sprint racing. There's so many more moving parts and elements to it, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, traffic's the main one, really. I mean, it's quite spaced out since it's such a big track, but you know, I was trying to get the maximum of every overtake I could, but I just didn't have enough. But like Regenta, they were really solid in traffic and just kept consistent lap times, which was all that mattered, really. And even like if I had enough fuel, I wouldn't have called them. So fair play to them.
Well, it's great to hear the sportsmanship, Archie, and that's one of the things we always love here at Sim Racing Magazine in our community. It's great to have you involved, and will we see you in more events in the future, do you reckon? Because you've certainly been one of the most entertaining drivers out there.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I did the what was it, the Daytona Classic, and I really enjoyed that. And I mean, GTPs are like, I got a soft spot for GTPs, so I really wanted to do this, and I had a lot of fun nonetheless, even apart from the result. But yeah, I would love to, you know, stick around and do some more special events with you guys. There's a great crowd over here, so yeah, for sure.
Well, we certainly look forward to it, Archie. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
Yeah, just the team. Rob, thanks for putting in this entry. I had a great time, and Neil's my teammate. PC did him a bit dirty, but yeah, still had fun nonetheless. And also you guys for putting on this race. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Not a problem at all, Archie. Our pleasure. Thanks for joining us, mate, and we'll hopefully see you again soon. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cracking stuff, Ed. Cracking stuff. Archie Coveney, again, really good sport, and obviously he still enjoyed himself because he gets to rag that car around like mad for nearly 2 hours. And it's a massive shame what happened to his teammate, but that's racing sometimes, isn't it?
It is. It's just a matter of... Essentially what we phrase it as is... It's basically similar to a technical failure in real life racing. The way that you can have a lot of hardware failures in a sim, you can have hardware failures in the real world of motorsport as well, and it's obviously something that everyone tries to eliminate as best they can do, but you can't always account for it, and it's disappointing when it happens, but at the same time, you can't spend all the time just ruminating and thinking too much on it. Just get your head down and, in the end of the day, move on to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. And a man that got his head down in that race and cracked on. One of the drivers that took on the race on his own was Fausto Pinto. Fausto, welcome to the commentary box, my friend. First off, how was the race for you? Just talk us through it.
It was very, very hard. It's exhausting to try to do a 2.5 hours race by myself. It was exhausting.
But it was, I imagine, a very noisy race as well for you, because that Porsche, it makes one hell of a noise, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just a great car to race. It has a magnificent sound, and when you go side by side with other cars, it really stands out. It's just a magnificent car. I love it. Just love it.
What was it like trying to keep it under wraps for the entire evening tonight? Because these GTE cars, they've got a little bit more difficult in time to drive, haven't they? They've sort of developed into a bit of a pig to drive sometimes.
Yeah, these GT3 cars have just got a mind of their own. I just tried to do some strategy on the race with the Porsche and try to save as much as I can tires. And it was really, really, really hard to maintain the car, but I went until the end of the race, so that's a win.
Well, that's absolutely it. Surviving is 90% of the battle won in races like this. What did you think of the GTE class going into this race? Was it one you were nervous for, or were you just confident that you were going to have a good time and just have a bit of fun and enjoy yourself?
It's always a big expectation when you have multi-class car race, and joining into the GTE I think it's normal. I already run the car on other events, so I was confident that the car could perform. I was not have the idea that the Beamers were such a fast car here. It blew my mind how fast they are. The chicane guys passed by me, and I was looking at my speed meter, and I was thinking, am I stopped here? it just blew past me. It was incredible, and congratulations to the chicane guys for winning the class.
Well, very, very kindly said, Fausto. It was great to see you out there yet again, mate. Have you got an entry in mind for the next GT4 series and the Winter Series as well?
I will not join the Winter Series because I had some personal problems to solve. But I will join the next season with a different car from last one. I will be joined with the Porsche season.
Well, we wish you all the best, Fausto. We hope everything's okay, and we look forward to seeing you out on track again sometime soon. Is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks to before you go?
Just a big shout out for you guys that put together such a wonderful event, and to the Scotland Pro Driving team that keeps getting me in here and racing race after race. Thank you very much for them also.
Well, it's a pleasure as always, Fausto. Thanks very much for jumping in, mate, and we hope to see you again soon. All the best.
Oh, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Fausto Pinto there, Ed. We didn't really speak to him actually throughout the GT4 series, but it's great to finally have an interview with him. He's a wonderful, wonderful bloke, is Fausto. He's always very supportive of everything that Sim Racing Magazine and Chaz Draycott Media do together, and it's lovely to finally have that chat with him. We do have one more interview lined up for you though, Ed, and it's an absolute belter because we have our one-man band that won the LMP2 class. Take it away with John Tusting.
Welcome, John. Good to have a chat with you as always, and it's in good circumstances because you've had an amazing drive back of the LMP2 field to the front. Just talk us through the race, and was it always the plan to save the fuel and hope you didn't need that extra stop?
Yeah. About 5 o'clock, I sat down and sort of had a look at the fuel usage saving and going flat out, and then the time. And we have a clever little spreadsheet we use in the team, and yeah, it seemed that I could cross the line with 0.8 of a litre left. And so went for it. I figured I'd be 10 seconds ahead of people that didn't. But I was just lucky that Jacob had his technical, really, because without that, I think he'd have wiped the floor with all of us, to be honest.
I mean, I'm glad that you're magnanimous in that, because to be fair, he did put a lap that I think was a second faster than anybody else's in the closing stages, so you bang on there. But take nothing away from yourself, mate. That was a brilliant drive from you, and of course there was moments there where it looked like Christopher Smith, RD Simsport, they were getting into the picture as well. How tough was it to try and fight him off for the mid phase of the...
I just tried to be consistent. I've done hundreds and hundreds of laps of Le Mans. We've done quite a few 24-hour races here. So it's a really familiar place, and I figured if I'm consistent and I don't mess up on a little half spin or whatever, then if I get beaten, fair enough, then it's on me, isn't it? But that seemed to work, and I was quite lucky with traffic in a couple of places. The guys behind kept getting closer and closer, and then I'd see that they were stuck behind a GT in a twisty bit, and so yeah, a bit of luck, but mostly I was just trying to be just consistent. I'm going to look back at my lap times because I think a lot of them were within a second of each other, just time after time.
And is that just down to the amount of laps you've done previously, or was there a bit more prep work that went into the race this evening?
To be honest, I didn't have a lot of time. I think I did 14 laps of practice before the race. But having done so many around here before with other events, it clicks pretty quickly. I probably get to like 98% of my ultimate speed in about 10 laps. But my ultimate speed isn't that fast, so I guess this is a track like the Nürburgring where I outdo my iRacing. Everywhere else I'm probably a 2K racer, but here I might be stretching to 3.
Nice, mate. Well, we'll hopefully see more of you in the future, because that was a brilliant drive. We don't think we'll be doing the P2s anytime soon, but maybe in a future special event. Who knows? Of course, we have the Winter Series just around the corner. Are we going to be seeing you out on track?
I may do. I prefer single seaters and prototypes to the tin tops, really. So we need SRM to do like I don't know, Formula 4 series or something like that. But I may be persuaded to join in, but I won't be at the front of that. That is for damn sure.
I'll be also campaigning for a Formula 4 series. I've got a hole in my heart from Nevo Sim Racers World Formula 4s and Formula 3s that needs filling, Chaz. So we need to get on that, I think. But thank you very much, John, for your time with us in the booth and also your time out on track. You gave us a really entertaining race to commentate on. So cheers for that. Before we say goodbye to you, though, is there anybody podcast, mate?
Just the boosted guys. Just really welcoming to, I don't know, I guess I've been there every year now. But good team, good sort of banter between races, and then don't take it too seriously, but we all try and do our best. And just my other half, Claire, for putting up with me sitting in this hot, sweaty rig till, what is it now, 11:15 at night, doing silly things like this.
Wonderful stuff, mate. Thank you very much, John.
No, thank you. Thanks for putting it on. Thanks to the SRM guys who facilitate all this, and Chaz and yourself for commentating. It's been really, really good fun.
It's been an absolute pleasure, John. Thank you very much, mate, and well done. Honestly, great to see you do that, especially as a single-handed driver as well. That was mega. Really good stuff.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, John. See you soon. Well, there we go, Ed. I'll tell you what, I think John maybe surprised himself a little bit with that one tonight, but a great win in the LMP2 category. Not an easy car to drive at all at full chat around Le Mans, especially when you've got to do that for 2.5 hours on your own with no teammate in the car to help you as well. That is a proper drive, that.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, I think I've raced with John in the P2s beforehand, actually, when I was part of Boosted as well, doing, I think it was Daytona, I remember. Did impress me with his consistency and how good he was at navigating the traffic, and I think that was real ace up the sleeve that saw him take the victory more than anything else. It was just that consistency, and well, Christopher Smith might be able to beat him on occasion for a one-lap pace over the course. He just couldn't keep up with, I think, the experience that John has around the circuit.
No, absolutely not. But still, it was a fantastic race all the same and great entertainment. Thank you very much, Ed, for joining me in the commentary box, as always. Thank you to Andy Marston at Sim Racing Magazine as well for his blessing with all of this. And thank you to our sponsors, Orris Digital and Derbyshire Holiday Homes. Thanks to all the drivers, all the spectators, everybody that's been involved in either putting this event together or being a part of it here this evening. It has been an absolute pleasure, as always. I've been Chaz Draycott with the wonderful Ed May here on Chaz Draycott Media for the Sim Racing Magazine events Core Oman, sponsored by Orris Digital and Derbyshire Holiday Homes. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you in a week's time for the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Winter Tour. But for now, have a good night. We'll see you again soon. Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The three wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
Before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, these are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower.
Brake. Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, he's been moved and it's ready to go out. Ben Gregory now, I love it. 10.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.